Hi everybody, it's Jacob, and if you can believe it, we are back with more fan fiction. If you've been watching these videos before this one comes out, I'd like to apologize again for how long it takes me to actually release these. We recorded this episode almost a year ago now, and yet here we are only just now getting around to releasing it. Here I am, as if anybody bears responsibility for this but me. So again, I know things have been very slow releasing these, I apologize. If nothing else, I have still managed to beat Chapter 4 of Book 5 to press. I say that, it's gonna be a day or two between me recording this and this video actually releasing, so it's entirely possible that the next chapter could come out in the next few days, and then I would look very silly. But then again, inviting that hubris upon myself may be a good thing because, you know, then I'd get Chapter 4. So anyway, once again, sorry these have taken so long to get out. I also want to make a more specific apology, even if you're watching this well after it releases. All of you will have to listen to for the next couple hours. The audio on this one is a little bit scuffed. It's not too bad, but I was doing something a little bit different with our setup because, as you guys may recall, we lost a bunch of footage on a bunch of audio that is on the previous recording. I was trying something a little bit new for this one. I did not set it up quite appropriately, and my voice is just a little bit too loud. It's a little too hot. You'll hear me peaking just a little bit throughout this. Hopefully it's not too bad. Any audiophiles in the audience are going to absolutely hate this. But whatever. Don't worry, it's all fixed in future recordings, and with that, I will leave you to the actual discussion. Oh boy, we're back again. Back to talk about fan fiction again, man. We freaking take so long to do this every single time. We need to do this faster next time. We still haven't even released one actual episode, but it's taken us like 6 months to get this far.
Yeah, so they don't even know that it's slow. If we didn't talk about it, they wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's going to be acknowledged up front because I'm going to have to explain, hey, look at this cool art that we have in episode 1 that you and I didn't exist until, I don't know, the third episode. Oh boy. What a fun time. What a fun time. What a fun summer vacation Harriet had this time around.
Indeed.
It was very eventful. A lot of stuff going on.
Did you pull up that text that of your synopsis of the summer that I was like, we should have that?
I can pull that up if you want. Hold on.
I might be able to find it.
I'm sure we can both find it. It's relatively quickly. It's got to be here. It was only a couple days ago.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
Harry blackmails one of the most powerful men in the world, accidentally invents a new magical technique because she's a freak of nature. Leo starts teaching her to fight in addition to Lupin's lessons. Harry is further a freak of nature because her mom's kind of a freak. It's a jam-packed summer.
There's a lot going on. It's an exciting summer. That is one thing that I like about, we talked about already, kind of the Leo and Allie stuff is there to fulfill kind of a very specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the supporting cast in the alleyways is kind of filler characters that are complete kind of blank slates in my head that I don't really know anything about. Like Crate kind of has an identity as a function because he's our boss. Mm-hmm. Leo's a character. Everybody else is kind of hanging out at that bar or the inn or whatever.
Dancing Dragon.
Yeah, they're just kind of whatever. They're there to fill out the population. But all those scenes, even with that, even though those characters don't feel super clear or important, it all has a really specific purpose because it's Harry even acknowledges it, I think, in these chapters. It's kind of the only place where she gets to be
her.
Yeah, more or less completely off guard.
Yeah.
Which is pretty valuable. Well, and I imagine that's part of why it's that way in the, because I think I mentioned Leo is a very specific analog for one of the characters from the Alana the Lioness books. Yes. So these are kind of riffing. I wouldn't be surprised if that's much the same purpose in those books, but I still haven't read them and frankly don't plan on it. Yeah. So whatever, we're getting to experience them vicariously through this and through me reading about them out of interest in all of this. But anyway.
I will say, like, even though they're basically filler, I really like the cast that makes up the group for the Dancing Dragon. I really like, I think it's Rispa that is like. I mean,
they're colorful enough.
They are. They're very colorful. They're not kind of bland background. They're not just like the faceless people that you put in the background of shots just to make the shots full.
Sure,
like,
sure.
They have character, and I like that.
They're just not. I wouldn't. They definitely have. They have a presence. I just meant more so that like they don't feel like human beings that you're super deeply invested in, but I don't think they're really supposed to. That's
Yeah.
not really, they're there to populate that world.
Yeah.
And Harry doesn't have very intimate relationships with most of them, so it's fine. Speaking of people that she does not have intimate relationships with, we actually start out with her going to the Burrow, which is obviously not as close to them in this as she is in canon. She's closer to Fred and George than she is to Ron. I couldn't help but notice something on this, I don't know, fourth read of this at this point, because I read it once back in the day. I read it again in preparation of doing this with you. Then we took so long to do the back part of 2 that I backed up. And then I reread chapters 1 through 5 again for our discussion today. Then it took us a while to sit down and do this discussion again. So I went back and reread the chapters 1 through 3. I kind of skimmed through them. So I had plenty of ample opportunity to notice, why did they walk up to the Burrow at the beginning?
I don't know.
Because there's no flying car, so they should have logically flewed in. Because Ron collected her from Grimmauld Place or whatever, so they didn't teleport. I just noticed that. It was so that they could have a scene of walking up to the house, but I realized they shouldn't have been outside.
No.
Oh well, it's no big deal. It's more cinematic that way. It's much more cinematic to start outside and go inside, so it's fine. It
absolutely is, because if they hadn't started outside, then what is it, Dread and Scourge
whatever,
have come out and gone puppy and just
you're really into that, aren't you?
It is. My note is the sounds I make reading puppy never cease to surprise even me.
I want to just put something out in the air and see if you have anything to say about it. So Bill Weasley shows up. He says he's working on cracking a tomb in Egypt for Gringotts, and he says the alarms went off, but we found no hole in the wards big enough for a human.
Yeah. So immediately I was just like, okay, well, why isn't that still a concern? Because we're wizards.
It's true.
And so I much later in my notes have something about an interaction where Harry's running late for her internship. And I'm like, is that Peter Pettigrew? So my brain was already going there. I don't know if it's the correct direction.
That's the thing. So I've read the whole book, so I know what all these things are and are not setting up for. Right. So that's why I just wanted to tee you up to see what theory mongering you had going on.
I did.
That's all.
I think before we even get to Bill, though, there was a line that Rigel is describing the Weasley family dynamic and saying it was endearing in an overwhelming kind of way, and I just thought that was hilarious because you grew up with James.
Well, that's what she has a little realization of, I guess, maybe everybody's kind of seems like this from the outside. Maybe if they came over and visited my family, we'd seem like we had perfect family. We'd feel it seemed like a perfect family too, because you don't know about your you don't show your baggage necessarily to other people. But yeah, no, you mentioned Harry being late for her internship. I don't know if we even brought it up in the discussion, but Harry scored an internship at the Potions Guild.
Yes.
She's getting ready for that and refusing to go by the alley. She's mailing stuff to Crate because she doesn't want to talk to Leo because she's pissed at him because of his interference at AIM. Though he makes nice. They have a little conversation. She impresses upon him how important that whatever she's up to, it's very important and he shouldn't interfere with it. He says he acquiesces and shows that he is actually helping her to maintain the ruse without any knowledge of what it really is, because he's gone and actually populated her apartment with furnishings, and he goes around and makes noise in it every now and then to support her alibi for whatever she's up to, even though he doesn't really know.
So we've lightning speeded ahead there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, whatever you got.
You're
go
good.
Ahead.
My last note about the Burrow is Rigel saying I like Ginny rude, which I just thought was hilarious, and I agree. I like her to have a personality. I think you and I talked about this.
We talked about how there's early book Jenny and late book Jenny.
Yes.
Even in the series.
Yeah, and I like that she does have a personality other than not talking or Harry. I have a note about her saying she had no interest in spending time with people she couldn't trust, however, just being like,
oh yeah, with Leo. Yeah. Get out of here.
Do we want to just skip to her talking to Leo? Because there's a couple things that happened at Grimmauld Place between between Burrow and Allie's.
I had a couple things about like about how her relationship with her dad is going just great. But it's, I mean, there's really not much has changed on that front. We kind of we know all that stuff.
Just the line of she knew she confused him. But,
I have the exact same line written down.
But she also knew he didn't hold it against her. I like that line.
So their relationship was fine, no matter what others think.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is, again, Harry's a very unreliable narrator on a bunch of stuff.
100%.
But that's
Absolutely.
That's fun. But to be fair, their relationship could actually be worse.
For sure, 100%. And then we also have that Addie doesn't like Harry or Ramus.
Mm-hmm. Well, we get to find out why that is.
Yes.
A little bit later on.
Yes.
It's we can go ahead and talk really briefly. It's because of magical aura science stuff. Harry's repressed her aura. Remus has a werewolf aura, and so small child can detect some weirds going on with the two of them and doesn't like being touched by them.
So my question before we got that explanation was, oh my God. Lupin takes werewolf medicine. He takes the potions. He takes a lot of freaking potions.
Well, I don't know if he does it every single day. I think he just does it.
Does he? I don't know.
I assume in lore your one is supposed to take Wolfsbane. Well, it's actually it's specifically mentioned in Snape's paper later on that the whole part of his innovation is take one dose at the beginning of the full moon cycle. I think the implication is one would take a dose of it every night of the full moon under normal circumstances.
I think you're right.
I think you're only taking it a couple times a month.
Either way, he takes a lot of potions.
Yeah.
Compared to me, who does not take any potions.
It's true.
I didn't know.
It's just like I said in the Kingdom Hearts 2 playthrough. There are 2 belts on Diz's face, which is higher than the regular amount by 2, but it's technically not that many.
So I didn't know if maybe like the potions had something to do with it. If they're like a magic that babies don't understand, and they're just like, screw you, I don't like you and your potion magic, because obviously.
So you thought that might have been the connection between Harriet and Rigel and her reacting weird.
And I didn't know if it doesn't really say anything about like Archie taking turns, because Archie's not responsible for Addie.
Sure.
So I was like, I wonder how the relationship is between Archie and Addie, because that would be an interesting, hey, is it potions? Because Archie is currently taking the modified polyjuice.
It's true. Along with Harriet, yeah. That's a good theory. I didn't think of that when I was reading it the first time. It may have been I didn't think of it because I saw it on a TV tropes page before I started reading it, or I may have just not gotten there. I don't know. Because again, like I said, certain things in this series I was spoiled on before I even read it, because I did a bit of kind of research ahead of time to go. Am I gonna dive into this?
Yeah. I have just or I wonder if it's related to magical cores, which is what it ends up being.
Yeah.
But initially I was like, what if it's potions?
So when she's there's another bit in the prose where she says something to the effect of like Leo was currently number 1 on the list of people she didn't want to see. I just wrote down, her life was so simple in this book. that's the worst person she could have seen then. Yeah. That doesn't last terribly long, because she winds up going to the alleys. They have a conversation again. She impresses, this is serious, take it seriously.
Yes.
He says, got it, and she kind of gets that whole reflection on like. Because he insists, I'm on your side. And she's like, I think he's the only person other than Archie who can say that and have even like a modicum of an idea. He obviously doesn't know what's going on. He's just, surely by this point, he has ascertained that she's caught up in something very illegal.
Yes.
But, we're not going to find out any more than that for a while. I have a note here. Going back through this, again, reading it multiple times at this point, I'm a little bit shakier on Leo as a character. Like his interest in Harry is a little bit odd, and his relative lack of flaws does hurt him as a character a little bit, because he's kind of
the
perfect.
Cool guy.
But I mean, that being said, like, he's still interesting enough, primarily in the way that he interacts with the other characters and the actions that he takes. So it all works out just fine. And an argument can be made that he's less a rich character himself and more like a plot device for Harry's story. Yeah. But I will say, I feel like, and maybe I'll really scrutinize this more as we move through the rest of book 3 and into book 4, I do feel like he gets richer as the story goes on. I've said before that while I really like these first 3 books, I really like book 4, and I don't know. I sense in my gut that I have a much deeper connection to him. Like, my point is, like, having read all these, I'm like, ooh, I like Leo, but going back through the beginning of book 3 several times, I'm like, I'm not. Where did all that? I mean, again, not that I dislike him, but I think that much of my affection for the character comes from later material.
Yeah. So I have the Leo stalked across the room so fast that Harry didn't have time to flinch. He was right up in her face, looming over her and glaring as he spoke in a low, harsh bite. And I was like, I don't know that I like this. I don't know why I don't like it. I don't have a distinct, but I know that if I had read this when I was 13, I'd have been like, wow, that's hot. And I don't like that. I don't like it. And as a not 13-year-old, I'm like, Harry's not even 13 yet because we haven't had that scene yet. So leave Harry alone, pretty please. Thank you.
I think it really is a thing where Leo is almost an adult, and he thinks that Harry is in some. I think that scene is not meant to be "wow, that's hot" quotation marks. I really think I think that he's in a situation where he has, like I just said, at this point, he has at least semi-ascertained that Harriet must be in some serious kind of trouble.
Right.
So then he needs to similarly be able to impress upon her, no, you are in some serious kind of trouble. You need to be.
Yeah.
You need to be taking this seriously.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's an author's note in this beginning bit where she talks a little bit about the handling of Leo, where some people responded to it, probably with similar thought processes to what you just had.
It's after the duel when he makes the joke about, like, winners used to get a kiss and now I don't get anything.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, yo, Harry's 12. And he's like, oh shit, Harry's 12. and that's when she has that author's note I know Harry's 12. That's not what we're doing currently.
That feels like, because honestly, that feels like the sort of thing where she has the characters in her head very clearly and knows what's going on with them. And then in that vein, miscommunication happens where you know exactly what's going on, so when this character says something, they're just joking or they mean something else by it. This is the type of area where publishing a chapter at a time with no outside editor can hurt what's going on a little bit, because I actually feel like there is. And this may sound a little bit odd because as the characters get older, you would expect that sort of undercurrent to maybe be elevated a little bit. I honestly feel like it gets dialed back going forward, probably because she went, ooh, I see that I was tapping the gas a little bit too much there.
Okay.
So because people were, I haven't gone back and read, contemporary reviews on those chapters from the time.
Right.
But from that author's note, I assume people were taking that a little bit more intensely than she intended it. But what else have I got here? So we get, because the first chapter's kind of short.
Yep.
Last thing that happens is she heads to the first day of the guild internship.
Yes.
And we meet relatively unimportant third character,
Ronaldo,
and we run into Kylam Lestrange again, our best friend. Yeah. But I'm sure you have stuff to say.
Oh yes.
You had words for these characters. Unless you want to wait until we get a little bit deeper into
there's not a ton here specifically. I just have, I should have known the Lestrange bastard would be back. I really liked the line of Harry in her own head going, the part of herself pretending to be Harry Potter.
And then she had to stop. That's one of the last times, and then there's a little parenthetical of like, and she realized how ridiculous that was. Right. That's one of the last, because that's another thing I think I talked about in the first discussion, kind of like, I guess, on a published work can use whatever style it wants to.
Right.
But there's certain stylistic things that show up early on that feel like, because it's a on fanfiction.net type thing.
Yes.
The little parentheticals in prose pretty much disappear after this. That actually might be one of the last ones.
Okay.
Not that that's like a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something that I noticed about the style that kind of, I don't really think is in book 4
grows
very much.
out of it almost.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I have, I hate this kid. I genuinely hate him. And then I just have a note that is about, I think, Harry's internal monologue that just says, yeah, you're damn right you're here as Harry and not anyone else. Get it, girl. You're doing great.
But that's
everything that I have for chapter 1.
Yeah, it gets us into chapter 2 very quickly. I think there was an author's note at the beginning of chapter 2. It was like, people complained the last one was too short, and that was like a normal book chapter length, but whatever.
So my chapter 2 notes do start with that. I'm sure that interaction was significant, but I am unsure why.
What interaction?
Other than maybe being Peter Pettigrew.
Oh, the person she bumps into when she's late for the
or giving Rigel a reason to be late. But there are so many other reasons for Rigel to be late, and we got a detailed description of the object that he dropped without being told what it was, which makes me think that that's also important.
Probably.
And then I also have LMAO Harry unlocking the door with blatantly wandless magic because she's not holding hers when she walks in.
Also, you can see Violet desperately trying to put a Band-Aid over the issue of locked doors in the Wizarding World where Hermione in book 1 can go Aloha Mora and open a locked door. There's a quote, yeah, Harriet. I think it's Harry because Lestrange accuses her of busting through the door or whatever when it was locked, and she says, "You think a child like me could overpower a master's locking charm? It takes 1.5 times the energy of the caster put into a locking charm to unlock it." I don't think that's original canon. I think that's
certainly not.
I think that's a Band-Aid fix.
And then I have Cool of Ruthridge to just be like, she got in. She can have a seat, I guess.
He seems like a very chill dude.
Yeah, and so then I have, bro, I wish teachers actually taught like that. Figure out what I do and don't know, and then teach me the rest. That is incredibly efficient.
Fairly easy to say he did that in prose. More difficult to be able to assess that sort of thing in real life.
Yeah, for sure. But, like, in a perfect world, I would love to learn that way. Back to Lestrange, that smug bastard laughing at correct answers just because they aren't overachieving answers. What a prick.
Well, then she overachieves answers later. She doesn't overachieve her answer later, so she's good.
I did like using that kind of setup and that kind of prose to give us lore, I guess, on magic and how potions and things of that nature work. Because a lot of the time it's just Rigel is explaining things to friends. I liked doing it with that kind of back and forth of the students and the teacher interacting. I thought that was a cool way of giving us that information.
This is much of what you get to cheat with in fiction in general. It's like if you set your story at a fictional school, that cuts out a lot of your work on exposition. But that scene did have an interesting energy to it because it was the students debating more so than it was a teacher lecturing. So I know exactly what you mean.
And I did also just of that lore think it was really neat that you have to vanish bones to use Skelegro.
Yeah, that was a fun little flavor detail.
Yeah. It was not something I had ever considered, but is pretty cool. And then of Harry's overachieving answer, I have, oh my god, Harry with the demolition of
the really
Lestrange.
lengthy explanation of like alternative ingredients and what. That's the sort of area where I think Violet has talked about. She does a lot of research into ingredients and different types of stuff. And obviously she's fudging a lot and remixing things, but she does do a lot of reading on different types of things to come up with these ideas because she's just inventing a bunch of bull crap. But she's talking about a lot of different elements and ingredients and stuff. She seems to have figured out rules for each of them and behavior that where I know enough about the elements involved that they make at least some amount of logical sense.
Right. And I liked that it was an in-depth answer taking into account the income of people who would need to buy it. May have been late, but she came to play. And then that's the next thing I have is in the Dancing Dragon. I don't know if you have
I have nothing else. They head down there and this is again with me like I like the material in the alleys. I understand why it's there. I like Leo. I think that whole scene where they're practicing facial expressions before Bill shows up, I think that was a little cringe.
No, I liked it.
That's for me that's especially I didn't think much of it the first time through, but I literally have after my normal notes, reread note, and then third reread note, and read note, and each time I'm like, maybe I'm just not in the mood, but the scene isn't that good. Then third reread, no, this is not good. This is bad. I don't like this. But no, the main thing, and I was gonna say it's noteworthy because I think that's the last spot where I kind of. I don't know. Like they even mention like the quotation marks, the look that comes up in the first book. That's very fan fiction-y kind of silliness, and I think that's the last time any of that type of stuff comes up. Really, so that for me personally, where that's not to my taste. That kind of stuff cropping up. But I did think about we were literally watching Community a little bit ago. You haven't gotten to this. There's a bit in season 4 where Jeff and Abed are spying on somebody. They've set up a camera watching someone.
Perfect.
They're like, what is he doing all day? And Abed goes, he mostly just practices smiling in the mirror. There's no shame. We've all done it.
Oh, wow.
Because Abed's...
Yeah.
I love that, practicing smiling in the mirror. It made me think about that, where they're practicing expressions. Sorry.
So that's kind of one thing where like the look thing and if you use that, you're sure to get what you want or whatever. Like that part of it was less interesting. The interesting part of it to me was like having the practical feedback on how to sell facial expressions, which is so useful for Harry in the predicament that she's gotten herself in, and having this kind of ragtag, not necessarily on the up and up, people who have practiced with these skills to be able to convincingly lie when they need to. I thought that was just like a cool moment. I also 100% forgot that these people think Harry's a boy.
Yeah, we still haven't revealed that little detail yet.
Yeah.
No, I think for me, that exactly what you just described of why you think that type of thing is cool. I think for me, it's a little bit too dead on. I think that's why it kind of loses me a little bit. Is like it's like there's a part of me that's like, I don't believe that interaction actually happened. Almost.
Maybe.
Hey, listen, that's just me. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. This is just my opinion. If we agreed all the time, this show would be kind of boring.
It would. So, it would. That's a fair point. Not to agree with you. But
shit, you're right. What do I have here?
We have Bill.
Yeah. Weasley shows up supposedly, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
That Bill, whichever is his real name, Bill. I don't know who he is. That older
not incredibly
Weasley
creative
guy.
with his
aliases. No, it's not. Didn't put too much effort into that. I didn't really have much else written down about that
Fred
scene.
And George too much.
Yeah, I didn't really put anything else down about that scene. I don't have anything until she heads back to the guild. Do you have anything else there?
I just have what would Percy say? What would Molly say? And then, so he's not so good at setting wards. Hope that doesn't come back to bite us.
Who knows? We'll find out.
I don't know.
It's one of those things where it's nice in these types of stories. And I mentioned previously, part of the reason why we have so much world building in these is because if it was just the stuff that's going to come back, then that would,
it'd make it really obvious.
Yeah, that would be, then you'd get used to whenever there's an explanation of some magical theory, like, well, that's going to come up. So having this world very densely populated and even just throw away details like that helps a lot. So she heads back. They have their last day with this main guy before they split off into individual mentorships. I found it, I don't know, it's like, on one hand, I don't think it's like, Harry is so practically minded, it makes sense that she didn't spend time learning a pointless test potion, but on the other hand, she acknowledges that it frequently comes up on exams. So, I don't know, it's not out of character or anything. It was one thing I was like, I wonder, it's almost like it could go either way on her wasting her time learning that for the specific purpose of one day having to do it in a test or not. But, then I'll let you talk about how that goes down, because I didn't actually write down any notes for how the whole test goes down, because I knew that you had plenty to say. I've literally got screenshots of some of your stream of consciousness notes that you sent to me.
So I don't know that all of those Wait, you have screenshots that I sent to you, or ones you took of texting me?
Screenshots that you took of when you were texting me, but you also took screenshots of your notes and sent them to me in those conversations.
So I have
Go ahead.
Violet's ability to make me just hate an effing character is quite strong. I'm glad she didn't take this route with Draco.
We're talking about Kylam?
Yes, with Lestrange. I absolutely, thoroughly, wholeheartedly loathe Lestrange. Could break into a song from Wicked about it.
And then,
but he's like, I'm glad that she didn't do that with Draco now, because at the beginning of this, I'm sure avid listeners will recall that I wasn't sure about her approach with Draco. I felt like, where is my lovable asshole? This one's like just lovable. I don't understand. I have mixed feelings about it. I'm so glad that she didn't make me hate Draco, because I think I might actually just hate Draco. Like, he wouldn't be a lovable asshole anymore. He would just be
just despicable.
Put him in fire.
I will say, because I talked a little bit about the handling of Draco. Again, part of why I really like some of the later books. I wouldn't say Draco changes, but there's specifically a sequence in 4 where he's forced to spend an extended amount of time around the Weasley family.
Yeah.
And you do see that asshole edge of him come out a little bit more. I said edge. That may have sounded like I was saying edginess. I just meant that edge of him.
That sharp.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And then I also have a note about Ronaldo vaguely reminding me of someone. I'm not sure who. I'm not sure it's a Harry Potter character. I just really feel like I know that guy.
And then your notes continue because I think you must have literally been writing these as they go because
Probably.
you were writing this note down, I think, as Ronaldo's supposedly helping her with an ingredient. Then your next notes is just in all caps. Oh my God, what an asshole. So yeah, I've actually got these, so I can literally look at what you're gonna say.
I did think them bonding over mutual hatred of Lestrange was like a very real world bonding moment.
But then it turned out.
Yes, it turns out that he's also an asshole, which is unfortunate. But I thought that was a very believable moment.
I texted you back after reading that and I said, I don't think Ronaldo ever shows up again. I think he was just there to fill out the internship cast, and then Calum drew the attention because Harry would have been on too much of a high alert to be fooled. So that's why Ronaldo does the prank and then your prank sabotage. Then you said he better not show up, little twat. Anyone who sides with Lestrange can go to Azkaban. And then I said, oh, well, then you are going to be very disappointed with certain members of the Rigel Black fan base, lol. You that son of a bitch. I knew people were going to ship them because he's smart and good at potions and enemies to lovers slow burn, OMG. And then I just texted back in quotes, I can fix him. You texted back, F them, they're wrong. Harry is in a throuple with Draco and Pansy. And I think you were typing that at the same time I said, I can fix him. And then when that came through, you texted back in all caps, Harry can't even fix herself. The F do you mean? Fix him.
I get very heated about ships that I don't agree with. only if I feel like I have grounds to just like, if you just have a dumb pairing, that's your business. But if you have detrimental ones, we need to talk.
Some women are just attracted to terrible men. I don't know what to tell you.
Been there, done that. Don't buy the t-shirt.
No, I really appreciate it. Harry can't even fix herself. What do you mean fix him? I was like, that's perfect. That's awesome.
So then I have the realization of, oh my God, they gave her the wrong ingredients. I have good. I'm glad that the judges were able to see how she recovered from that. And then I also have in all caps, Harry, why do you care if he's pretty? He's an ass. Because she keeps making comments about this guy.
I think it's supposed to be that she's like, grr, he's got this perfect breeding and he looks good, but he's a big asshole. I think that she observes that as a note of resentment.
I hope so. I hope so.
But it could be that Violet at this point knows she has a fan base and she's very good at stoking those fires to keep people engaged. Who knows?
And then I have a note about her getting this kind of rando mentor that, you know, there's these
who winds up being pretty good, but he was just disengaged at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so because we don't know that he's good,
you were worried that she might have been shafted because she's female. I remember you talking about that at the time.
And then I have a note that I'd forgotten about Sirius's pet snakes.
I have a note. I wrote it down a couple of times because it started. This is the sort of stuff that I said I wasn't going to talk about too much after I felt like I talked about it too much in the first part, the talk about the first book. But I don't think I can avoid talking about it. Did you notice that she keeps accidentally typing tomb when she means tome, like a book? She keeps accidentally saying a grave instead of a. She goes back and forth on it. Sometimes she gets it right, and then she goes back to tomb, and it's very. I started playing like some kind of hide and seek game with it. But
that
anyway.
one, oh gosh, not to just completely derail the conversation, but small typos like that bother me so much less than another just trash pile that I've been reading, and I won't even go into it. But the author so consistently, it's like they wrote 9/10 of the book before deciding what gender the characters were.
Oh dear.
Because pronouns are fast and loose, and it Oh my God, I hate it. I hate it so much. And I wish that story was just like, haha, we use the wrong word sometimes. It is just like every other time a pronoun is used, it is the wrong pronoun.
Oh my God.
And it's so bad. Oh gosh. Okay.
Yikes. That's no good.
It is. It's bad. Then I just have stuff about the Archie Harry conversation.
Where they're talking about because they realize kind of late that because Sirius doesn't check his mail that Archie and Sirius have been invited to the garden party again.
Yes.
So they kind of chat about their continued situation and having to quickly improvise a birthday present for Draco. I thought about when there's that bit where she's thinking, what could she brew for Draco? She's like, he doesn't have any ailments, so he didn't need healing potions. I was just like, by Jove, I've got it. I'll give him an ailment, and then I'll give him the cure. That way he'll never leave me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then because she's like, what do you think would be good? Archie recommends this potentialis or something like that potion, which they slap together.
That happens until later.
Oh, maybe you jumped ahead a little bit. Sorry, what conversation are you thinking about?
Mine is I don't know whether to be impressed by us or disappointed in the rest of the
No,
world.
this is right beforehand. After they have dinner, they go and have that conversation in Archie's room, then they head back to the other house to make the potion. It's basically the same scene.
Okay.
They're discussing like how are we going to pull this off, and they basically say like, well, they'll explain away X, Y, and Z things because people don't want to look for deception necessarily. Right. They want to have their expectations confirmed. Yeah, yes. Exactly.
To follow up that, I don't know whether to be impressed with us or disappointed in the world. I have Archie. You can't just say that. You've jinxed it now.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
And then, okay, yeah. So they do talk about the potion. Because I have a note that says, not my fault he left it on my pillow, because in order to make that potentialis potion,
she needs DNA. Yeah.
And I was just like, Harry, you little creep.
She literally, she notes there, and it comes up again later, she has samples of many people's hair just in her bag that she just holds on to.
Just in case.
She's a freaking little autistic weirdo.
Yes, 100%. Like, you strange child, this is not normal behavior no matter what your hobbies are.
We had discussions in the first video and a little bit in the last two about like continuity nods and like how certain things I'm like that's a bit too much or whatever else. I liked in their discussion about potentially brewing the Princialis potion or whatever that there's a little continuity nod when Archie says that Hermione was going to brew it illegally in a bathroom stall before he stopped her. And obviously in book 2, she brewed the original series. She brewed Polyjuice potion in a bathroom. That's the type of continuity nod that I actually like. That is. I guess I don't know. Since I talked a little bit about types that I don't like in book 1. I don't know how to explain it any better than this. But maybe someone else out there who's trying to figure out what the heck is going on in my brain.
So when they're not so direct, when they're shifted to fit the context. It's not a direct trolls in the dungeon.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, that one was a bit much for me.
It's okay in the context of the OGs. She legally brewed Polyjuice potion because that's what she needed. In the context of this one, she was going to do the same action just with a different potion. Like it's not a so direct hit you in the face with it. It's just like, hey, this is a callback if you want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at the ending of chapter 2, we have a little author's note. A lot of people didn't like Harry's passivity in the last chapter. All I can say is Harry's kind of passive. She has to be to grow up in a family that doesn't understand her without resenting them much. Much is in parentheses. I don't think I've changed her character much, so all I can think is that during the school year, her friends stand up for her, and without them there, it seems like she's getting walked on. Well, she is, but she doesn't notice because that's just how she is. Sorry if it bothers you, but it's a defense mechanism she needs to stay level-headed throughout the game. Which is, I don't know, just interesting because she doesn't stop and talk in explicit detail about characterization too often in her notes, but that one was, I don't know, I thought was interesting. Yeah. That was worth noting because she is, and it's also with that in mind, there's a definite arc in terms of Harry's behavior in these books about being more direct and taking a little bit more charge of her life. That we'll see as the series goes on.
Okay.
That I don't know. I appreciate. We've talked already about, as you've said multiple times, quote, good freaking characterization.
Yes.
It's well put together. But then that's moving on to the garden party.
Yes.
And there's something I think that's, I don't know. I think it's intentional. That I think is pretty subtle and that I appreciate a lot, which is when they first get there, Sirius and Rigel bump into Regulus Black.
Yes.
And Regulus concocts this weird little like test. He's like, I want to make sure that your kid can conduct himself appropriately in society.
Yes.
And drags him around to a couple of different conversations, right? And he's like, on one hand, it's a chance for us to see Sirius in a new environment. We haven't really seen him. And outside the context of the Potter Black, Remus Lupin family dynamic. So we get to see him a little bit in a different environment, and that's good. But more importantly, it's establishing a contrast between what's going on here at the beginning of this chapter and what happens later in the chapter, because Regulus is satisfied with Rigel's performance and political knowledge after a few vapid conversations, unaware that Rigel is playing a completely different and much more real ball game and is about to outmaneuver everybody.
Yes.
Because it also gives you a sense of, it's almost a sense of world building in that you get, I mean, to be fair, obviously this guy's probably not expecting too much from a 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old. So there is that when he may just be, his expectations of quote political knowledge are kind of low, but it also tells you something about how stagnant and like, the political landscape of we're very involved and concerned about the flow of society and how everything is going. And we're just having these kind of vapid, unimportant conversations. I don't know. I think that's extremely deliberate because the chapter starts that way.
Yes. Well, you have skipped a small part
of
the start.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Which I have a note about. To jog your memory, I will offer my note, which is, yes, normal father-son banter, talking about mythical half-breed women. When they're like, which lady would you like to bed, son?
That wasn't what happened. He said don't. He said don't. He said no messing with whatever they are, nymphs. He said no messing with nymphs until you're at least 16 or something like that. What? That's perfectly reasonable.
But then they do go on a little bit further and discuss a few other.
Oh no! Then Archie quotation marks. Rigel jokes back about I'm more interested in Valkyrie or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know. It wasn't. He wasn't actually being sincere about.
No,
it was clearly
that's
just.
why I said banter. There is one introduction as they're going around making those conversations. Is Abigail Burke as in Borgin and Burke?
No, they mentioned that. She actually mentions that. I've heard of your son's business. That's part of the conversation they had. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
It's the father. It's the mother or the aunt of the guy with the mail order business. Yeah, it's mentioned.
I thought that Regulus saying like, "Oh, great, so you can charm a few old biddies," was hilarious. Because. LMAO, how about get along with Slytherins? And then I have in all caps, or be owed life dets that I did forget about.
When frickin' after that bit, when she has to explain about she helped avert an assassination attempt.
Yes.
Regulus says something to the effect of like, after it will be a wonder if there's anything left of politics when you're finished, referring to Rigel. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, Harry loads shotgun. That's the idea. That is the general idea. Yes. Also, right before that conversation, because the Parkinsons, Pansy's parents are there, and her dad says something to the effect of like Pansy. Yeah, hold on, I got it right here. Hold on.
Okay.
Pansy, we'll be glad to see you here. She always entertains the idea that you'll disappear over the summer and never be heard from again for some reason. I just wrote that Pansy. She's a pretty sharp dame.
Yep.
She's got a pretty good grip on what's going on over there.
Yeah. I have a note that just says, I do like that Pansy's parents like Rigel so much.
Well, it seems the dad seems to humor,
Yes.
but the mom seems to think Rigel's cute.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Rigel's a charming enough young person.
Yes.
It makes sense that people like Rigel.
Yes.
But that's part of the problem. It would have been better if Harry was unlikable. But anyway, Rigel meets up with her friends. Has a little brief moment of emotional vulnerability where she blurts out that she's missed them, but then has to duck out of hanging with them over the summer because she's busy. She concocts a fake research project to correspond with the one that Harry's actually doing, and
So I have summer playdates would in fact be difficult, but also weekends exist. Like, you're not gonna be in the guild every friggin' day.
No.
But I mean, I guess like work and stuff, whatever.
The switching is too complicated. They can't waste their time on it.
I guess
The switching is too complicated.
You
just want to have scenes with the characters.
I do.
You just want to hang out with
You're
Draco and Pansy.
correct.
You just want to hang out with Draco and Pansy. I see your game.
And then, lol, Harry's better than me because I can't be as good as Harry. Harry has to be better than Rigel because Archie's not going to be as good.
It's true. She
Yeah.
has to act like Harry's better than me.
Yeah.
Act like. I mean, I guess technically it's true. I don't know.
Yeah. And then
Harry has invented a new freak of nature brewing technique, and Rigel hasn't. So yes, technically Harry is better than Rigel.
I guess, yeah, that's true. And then moving on to Riddle just staring openly at Rigel. That's strange. And then I thought the code, where it's the kind of code but kind of not, I borrowed this book from you.
Yeah, I like that. It's like, that's clever.
Yes.
I enjoyed that stuff. To get to create to bring up something that never happened, knowing that they would go, okay, well, this is fake. What's going on? In an effort to covertly summon him and also apparently Lucius to a little meeting,
which I thought was interesting. So my first note about this encounter is I'm going to have to read that twice because the first time I was much too interested to take notes.
Did you read it twice?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead then.
So my first note after that is I'm sort of interested as to why Riddle brought Malfoy, but whatever, I guess it's his house. I also thought it was super interesting.
Probably wanted a witness. For whatever the hell was going to go on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Like, for his point of view, having a witness of, I didn't kill this 12-year-old.
Well, I don't think Riddle was going to kill anybody,
Right.
but I think that he's about to have a meeting. He has no idea what it's going to be about.
Yeah.
And also,
I guess that tracks.
I guess it also would make sense if you are in that position of, like, this kid who I don't know much about other than they killed a basilisk is trying to arrange a meeting with me. I mean, I don't think that he probably I think he knows. I don't think he's too worried about Roger's trying to kill him or whatever, or attack him. But I
Having
think
someone there,
and I think more so it's just an easy move to throw the other party off their game, hypothetically, because Roger was probably only expecting one person. Oh, that's one thing to think about. But yeah.
But then I also have that Malfoy speaking before Riddle is very interesting to me. And at the end of him speaking, Rigel does note that that Malfoy is quite casual with Riddle, despite their like more professional relationship. But speaking before and almost directly answering for Riddle when Rigel has directly addressed Riddle, like that's more than casual.
Maybe we are supposed to understand it as this business is being conducted in his house type thing.
I guess. I don't know. I also kind of almost was thinking maybe this business is not worth Riddle's time.
Yeah, well,
And
I guess they don't know. I guess they don't know yet.
Yeah.
They don't know what's about to happen.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I thought that was just a really interesting like characterization of Malfoy being just incredibly comfortable with his relationship with Riddle and not looking at him before he speaks every time, or however else like you might denote that there is any reverence to the position.
Well, I guess we are to then basically the reverse of how you're responding to it. We are supposed to then infer the how important Lucius is to that, or how high ranked he is within their organization, because he's a very significant figure.
Yeah.
In that he is not being too overly deferential.
The next I have is, damn, Rigel do just be full steam ahead, and I am secondhand very nervous. Child, what are you doing?
So,
why is this your plan?
Again, hopefully, if anybody's listening to these, they're reading the damn books. But at this point, Harry has decided, I am going to confront Riddle over everything that happened last year and at the conclusion of book 2, and essentially blackmail him to no longer become in. To be fair, asking him to no longer commit minor acts of domestic terrorism at a school is not really shouldn't be a big ask.
No.
But that's what's going on in this scene. She's basically saying, "Hey, I believe that you were directly involved." To be fair, she does make a point of like, I think that what happened last year wasn't your intent, but I also think it happened because of you, and I feel that I can at least go public with an internship reputation, even if I can't prove it.
Right.
But sorry, go ahead. You were, I find it's funny that you were about to say in your notes that I can't believe this is like, why is this what you're choosing to do? Because we had a little bit of an argument when this originally happened where you were more in the camp of this course of action makes sense. And I was kind of like, I'm not sure if that's the best course of action.
I know. So that's further. My thing is, why is your plan to confront him? To like, I do understand why it was Riddle of confronting them. Like, if you're gonna do it, I get it. You think
so you're saying you think you understand going to Riddle with the information, blackmailing him instead of informing, for example, cops or Dumbledore or something.
Right.
Okay.
So I get that. What I don't understand about the plan is that she just walked in there alone. Didn't even take Ginny, who at least had all of the same information.
Ginny ain't supposed to be at that party.
Well, no, but
would have been pretty suspicious.
Didn't do anything other than straight up walking in alone to face one of the most powerful men in the Wizarding Society.
I think we can at least assume, number one, she's too high profile. It's too high profile to be disappeared, so she knows she's not going to be killed. Worst case scenario, she gets memory charmed or something.
Yeah.
But Archie knows everything too. So
okay.
I don't think it's mentioned directly, but I think it's fair to assume
Archie
she would have said to Archie, "This is what I'm going to try and do tomorrow." Because I mean, she went in there with a plan.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
I think it's reasonable to guess that she probably told Archie, "This is what I'm going to do," and he probably would have noticed if she showed up going, "What basilisk? What meeting with Riddle?" So who knows?
Yeah. I just have a note that says Malfoy has now spoken twice for Riddle. I have a note about Riddle's mouth twisting at it acted on its own agenda is the first reaction from him that we've gotten other than his face went blank, which honestly for me is a mark in this Riddle's favor, because at finding out that his construct acted against his orders, it being the cause of harm to children became plausible. And I like that it did seem to make him uncomfortable, which is a marked difference from OG Voldemort, who had no problem invading a school and killing children with his own hands.
Yeah, a few scenes from now, we will basically, I mean, whether he's being honest or not, that like, especially, it seems like he's being honest enough, especially from the way that he reacts to certain things. He seems to be fairly regretful about having killed, still deeply regretful about killing someone 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Even if it's more about his own ego and his own self-perception and I screwed up and did this thing than it is about really him being a deeply compassionate person or whatever. Yeah, he isn't, this character's definitely not a murderer, it doesn't seem.
No.
He doesn't seem like even the type to dispatch he doesn't seem like I don't get my hands dirty, I get somebody else to do it. He just seems like he doesn't really like killing people very much.
I then have a note that says, I don't necessarily know enough about memory magic to know if leaving Riddle unattended with that memory is dangerous or not.
I don't think so. I'm sure that would have come up if
getting it back is definitely the way to go. And then I have a quote that says, there aren't many non-threatening explanations for why a 12-year-old boy was able to slay a basilisk.
Yeah, that's in Lucius's mind, right?
I out loud chuckled at that. Do we want to go more in depth with the discussion that we had about?
To me, I mean, I'm left wondering in this scenario where it's easy for me to go because I've read the original books and I know Dumbledore. Obviously, I would go and talk to Dumbledore about this sort of situation, but Harriet doesn't know him, and to be fair, I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about his reputation in this world and what she thinks of him to know if she would trust him to do something responsible with that. Maybe she thinks that he would do something less effective with the information, something that would be more politically advantageous, but because she doesn't care about the politics situation. She just cares about people not getting hurt at school. And so, like, I don't know. It's an odd one where I go, like, you've got access to Dumbledore, and you've got access to your literally cop dad. Like there are plenty of people she could have gone to. So while going to Riddle absolutely makes the most sense from a dramatic storytelling standpoint, and I don't just mean that, like, oh, it's quotation marks the most dramatic. I mean, like, it's the most interesting turn for all of the characters, because we as the audience really need to learn about Riddle at this point.
Yes.
And that whole scene is pretty key.
Yes.
It's important for us to be able to do that, and it's important for, as I said before, you get that contrast of even within the quotation marks antagonist side of the racists. A lot of them are vapid and complacent, and they don't want the world to change around them very much. They're just kind of existing, and having Harry come in, Rigel come in, whatever, and instantaneously change up the entire landscape on their territory in a dangerous scenario is much richer world building, characterization, etc., than the alternative of just going and telling a more trusted authority figure.
Yes.
I do wonder, would she have taken the risk? Is that like a realistic thing that she would have done? I don't know, because she is so practically minded and generally speaking doesn't go looking for trouble.
Yeah.
That it does make me wonder a little bit, but ultimately it's one of those things where, like, we saw Belle a couple weeks ago, the Mamoru Hosoda film, and not gonna talk about any spoilers for that film, but there is, at the very ending of that film, a character makes a, logically speaking, very questionable decision about safety, where a character puts themselves at way more risk than they need to be for really no reason, and other characters allow it for really no reason in universe. But again, I'm not going to talk about the details of why. I understand why it was done from a storytelling standpoint, and thematically speaking, the choice of that character to take on more danger makes the ending 1,000 times richer than if they had done that with a parachute. So I am very willing to, depending on what's going on within a story, go, this is so much more thematically potent than the alternative that I don't really care if this doesn't track completely on internal logic or decision making or whatever. And especially considering where the books will go from here and how this interaction with Riddle is going to color future interactions with Riddle and Riddle's decision making, 100% the correct choice for the story. And so I think it benefits what happens long term in terms of drama, in terms of excitement, in terms of how the plot moves. So I got really, I feel like it's worth stopping and noting. It feels like, I don't know, not even a long shot, but it's just like, I wish I had, I don't know. I think wasting time on Harry having an internal debate over what she should do would be really unimportant, because it wouldn't matter once she did it, really.
Right.
But I kind of wonder what that debate would have looked like, and how Violet would have written it and justified it if she had spent the time on that, because it does make you go, why didn't she go tell the very capable and hopefully trustworthy adults like Dumbledore and her dad, but I guess, to be fair, she would never go to her father with any of her problems.
Not.
But I don't know. I guess, I wonder why she didn't. I wonder why she felt like she couldn't talk to Dumbledore about it. Like what the motivation was.
So I think I mentioned this too. I don't know that it's that she necessarily felt that she couldn't. I think she hadn't decided when she had that opportunity standing in Dumbledore's office.
No, I believe that
she didn't know what she wanted to do yet.
Not telling him on the day of, immediately after the climax of book 2. That makes total sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
So by the time she did decide, it made why reach back out to Dumbledore if he's not the real target anyway? Why not just go tell Riddle?
It makes a certain amount of sense for her extremely objective driven way of living her life. But then I also go within that framework. She's also, I guess, I don't know, not always super pragmatic about not getting killed because she absolutely has put herself in dangerous
100%.
situations. But she doesn't go looking for it the way that you could accuse perhaps canon original book
Yes.
Harry of.
Yes.
So again, it's one of those things where I go back and it's not like it's not like it's wildly out of character and saying that she would have gone and confronted Riddle. It's just like it's one of those things where, okay, that's a call. But again, it works out so well for everything that's going on with the story long term that I don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah.
It's just worth. I just feel it's worth stopping and talking about it a little bit. It's just, I suppose she doesn't know Dumbledore personally. She doesn't trust him with the information necessarily. It would make more sense if she wasn't confronting a man that she knows murdered somebody. But I guess she has reason to believe he hasn't murdered anybody since then and regrets it. So again, from the construct's testimony at the ending of the previous book, she was basically told that Riddle regrets killing somebody and hasn't done that recently. So it's fine. Hold on one second. What else have I got here?
My next note is about Sirius's gift.
Yeah, hold on. I got a few more things for this scene. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah.
Rigel says during it, I didn't want to accuse you without knowing for sure because she thought maybe the construct's testimony was faulty or it might not have actually been made by Riddle.
Right.
But it's like I don't buy that's the primary source driving her decision of who to confront, especially considering what she overheard at the gala in the previous year.
Right.
So, but again, I'm sorry. These are just a few notes that I had on more detail of why I'm shaky on some of the decision making. But like I said, it doesn't matter, especially because the writing's fun. Again, like I said, to have Regulus questioning Rigel's political aptitude, being satisfied after some trivial nonsense.
Yes.
And then she deftly leads two very powerful men into a side room, conducts a secret meeting, changes the political landscape of Wizarding Britain for maybe the first time in 12 years that it seems like it's been kind of deadlocked.
Yeah.
And then leaves and no one knows.
Yeah.
Like that's so good.
Rigel.
Yeah, that I'll sacrifice any like raw logic on the decision making or whatever. When Riddle insists that she keep the diary as a reminder of one's folly. This is a little bit later on. We can go back to opening the presents in a second.
Is that like the second?
Oh no! It is. I think it is at the ending of that. It is in the library. She tries to give it to him, and he says, "Keep it."
Okay.
And she says, "Not as a." She says, like he says, "Keep it as a reminder of like the kind of mistakes you can keep it, and you can make in you're a kid, right?" And she thinks that she will keep it not as a reminder of youthful arrogance, but as a warning against setting into motion forces you couldn't control. What is she doing right now?
Fixing this. I remember having that exact same thought of, you mean what you just did? You mean it's a reminder to not do this again?
Yeah, she has again, that's the realm of writing this from Harry's perspective is so fun because I don't think she has any idea how deep in this she is right now.
Not at all. She's just like, cool, this is taken care of. Nothing else will follow from this.
It's all dealt with. We've made our deal, and I'll never hear from these guys ever again about this. But anyway, yes, back outside, Sirius has given to Draco an extremely considerate birthday gift.
Not even considerate. I mean, it is considerate, absolutely, but it's also just super freaking cool.
You were just talking about how neat you thought it was conceptually.
Yeah.
I guess I mean, it is neat conceptually. I'm just more hung up on the thematic significance of the gift.
And
but
it's both.
Yeah.
And so it's.
No, go.
For those who, for some unknown reason, haven't read it, the gift is a ball that contains
a little crystal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like an enchanted crystal or something.
I thought it was like a glass ball. To me, in my brain, and I may just be disregarding any description that I was given, but in my brain, I remember like similar to the Remember-Alls.
It was a glass or it was some kind of glass or crystal orb.
Yeah. So the glass orbs, but I think of this one as like kind of bigger than just the tiny little Remember-Alls that you see. Like I want this one to fit like squarely in the palm of my hand, like be a good size. That has light in it that only Draco can see because it is the light of the star that he is named after.
Yeah, so this is a thing that they explain. The Black Ancestors enchanted a huge collection of these little things to glow and cast light, but the light is not perceptible to anybody other than a person who's named after the relevant star. So, for
Yes.
example, the lights are enchanted after particular stars or particular constellations.
Yes.
And because Draco is named after a star from a particular constellation, and this one is enchanted after that constellation's light, it affects him. And Narcissa is a black, so he has black blood in him, so the enchantment works.
Yes.
And it's the thing that I liked about it was that I like in general that Sirius went out of his way to do something considerate for his son's friend. But also something considerate for his cousin, for Narcissa.
Yes.
Because we find out that there was, I think this might have been detailed in one of the previous books,
I think we got that information. I think Sirius explains it.
At some point previously, it was mentioned that...
I think it's after this.
Oh, is it only here? Okay.
Because Rigel is like, Dad, what? You gave him an empty glass ball. I don't understand. And then Narcissa explains what it is. And then afterwards, Sirius is talking with Archie.
Archie and Regulus, I think, has also walked up. Basically, he comments that when she was born blonde, her dad freaked out and thought that his wife had an affair, and that she was a bastard, and did not name her in a black tradition. He eventually got over this somehow. I feel like it had been mentioned at one point in the previous books, but if you hadn't heard of it until now, then I guess this was the introduction of the concept that she was poorly received when she was originally born,
Yes.
and then this resulted in this kind of family heirloom she was locked out of forever.
Because
And having her son actually receive one of them was probably deeply meaningful for her.
Yes.
And a really considerate move on Sirius's part.
Yeah.
What a charmer that Sirius.
And the significance of the gift, I liked that he did really do that, not entirely just for his cousin, but also because this is a boy that my son is
for sure,
with.
because of the closeness of his quotation marks son and Draco.
Yeah, and if my son wants to make this boy happy, then damn it, I'm going to make this boy happy. And I really like that characterization of the relationship between Archie.
It's very rich.
And, yes.
And a very sharp contrast of how invested Sirius is in his son's life and how invested James is in his daughter's life. Yes. Not that he doesn't love her, but that he has no idea what the hell's going on.
Right.
I didn't really write anything about the final scene with Riddle because it's kind of self-explanatory, unless you have anything else you want to say about it, where she heads back in after he's viewed the memory and he's having a hissy fit.
I just have so I have another note. I'm not sure if they're out of order.
Go ahead.
I just have a note that says Snape seems hella salty that Potter got an internship at the guild.
Oh no, yeah, he does walk up right after gifts are right after gifts are finished opening, and Rigel comments that she's at the that she has a guild internship, and I think it's like Miss Potter is in italics, right?
Yes.
The Mrs. And he is. I think he's very confused as to. I think it's also that he's like, she got an internship and you didn't. Why didn't you get a? There's in his internal monologue, a chapter or two from now, he actually is like, if I had known that the guild was so desperate for interns, I would have recommended Rigel, because he thinks he does a little aura reading on Harry's fake aura, and she's overcompensated on trying to seem normal, and she's like her magical reserves are like effed up. Or at least they're perceived that way. So he's like, haha, yes, James Potter's kid sucks and is an idiot.
Right.
There's no, she shouldn't have had this. Rigel should have had it because he just takes satisfaction, because he's a prick.
Yeah.
Anywho, but no, there's definitely, we can infer that he's probably thinking along similar lines of why the hell is she there and not you in that initial scene.
And then I also have a note that's just like, Harry's mentor had the same master as Snape. That's promising for the internship.
Oh, okay,
I wonder if this mentor has any interest in doing the same, like, I don't talk to you stuff that Snape's mentor did.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
I think he just wasn't taking her very seriously, but that is possible.
So, well, I don't think that's the route that he went. I think he also just wasn't taking her seriously. But I think it would have been super boring to read.
Sure.
But it's an interesting thought experiment.
Would have been interesting if he'd wound up having kind of a similar teaching method to that guy that Snape described at the end of the previous book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could have been interesting.
And then I thought I just have in quotes, the interests are as obscure as they are occult. Which I
Battle potions. When are we gonna get Plague Knight action? It hasn't, I'm gonna tell you right now, it hasn't happened yet. I want in book 5, I want Harry bouncing around like Plague Knight from Shovel Knight, throwing potions at people. That's what I want by the end.
So I do have further notes about the Riddle thing, which is I am in fact glad to see that Riddle is upset by the actions of his construct and remorseful to an extent about the basilisk. I'm also glad that we didn't have to re-experience that because he just
you didn't have to sit through describing the whole thing again from his perspective.
One, because like it wouldn't be as cool the second time, and two, just because like it really did like make my stomach upset a little bit. Like not even from a purely oh no blood and guts, like I can't handle that. I am not a fan of body horror, and that 100% read like body horror to me of the basilisk eating itself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I did not like that at all.
No, eating itself.
Like I did from the sense of like, oh, that is, as you described it, so metal.
Even her using the antimatter shield that she has when she's when she's been like wrapped up, and she pushes that out from herself and like presumably just melts into it in multiple places. Like that'd be pretty brutal. That would not.
So at that point, it's already dead. So like whatever.
But I mean, sure, but it was still
like that. Yeah, that didn't bother me at all. It was really just the it eating itself that bothered me. It like
they have to cut away from that probably in a PG-13 film adaptation.
You can't show that shit.
Screen.
No.
I may have talked about this on the show before. I don't know, but I distinctly remember when the Hunger Games movie was on the way and the first couple trailers for it released, and I was surrounded by people who were very excited. And I think I'd read the book by that point. I did read it before the movie came out. I was like, it's fine, I guess. Listen, this should tell you something about how messed up I am. That when I read Lord of the Flies, I was like, eh. I think I'd already watched Battle Royale by that point, and I was like, what? They only killed like 3 kids? This is nothing. No, I distinctly remember talking with people when they started showing trailers for the Hunger Games, because all the trailers, I don't know if you remember this, all the marketing was like before the games, and all the trailers would start with like the countdown and everybody running off of the little elevator things, and like those like 2 shots that ended every trailer, the camera was suddenly being operated by Michael J. Fox all of a sudden. And I looked around at people and I was like, this movie's going to be PG-13 because they need to get the teenage girls in the theater. Once the game starts, you will not be able to see a damn thing that happens because it's going to be shot like a bad Jason Bourne movie. And I had several people say, you're nuts. And I was right. But that's okay. Go ahead.
And then my last note for this chapter is I was surprised that they didn't make the oath earlier. But since Rigel had to come back anyway, I guess that makes sense. However, I would very clearly like to have on record that Malfoy did not take an oath.
No, he didn't.
Riddle did, and Rigel did.
Too many sons of bitches, no. Too many people. Too many people I gotta keep track of.
And sure, Jenny didn't take one either, but Malfoy didn't she technically
take a kind of oath with Harry? I'm pretty sure at the ending
of Harry.
No, yeah, sure, but I think I would have maybe given Jenny a warning, like, hey, heads up, don't ever be anywhere around Riddle or Lucius Malfoy if you can avoid it, because because I don't know. All she said was, I'm trusting you to take care of it.
Yeah.
But who knows? Anyway.
But I tried to, and I blackmailed the most powerful wizard of our
generation. Don't worry about it. Anyway. I got nothing else for that chapter. I'm moving on to chapter 4 if you're good. Yeah, I have my note about please, I want Plague Knight action. Harry, Rigel better learn to fight like Plague Knight before this is over. There's an automated magical mop at the Dancing Phoenix.
Yes.
That's called Ben.
Yep.
That is such a useless, pointless flourish.
I have a note that says it reminds me of Muggles naming their Roombas. Because there was a marketing.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, there's a marketing campaign like where when you buy Roombas and other similar like robotic vacuums and mops, when you set them up, like when you set the device up and tell it things about your house and what you want it to do, or like set a schedule or whatever, you name it. Because they want it to be a part of your house.
Yeah, I just wrote down, it's such a useless, pointless flourish Violet probably invented on the spot and which never comes up again, and I love it. I don't know, that's kind of stuff I'm into.
So before we get to my note about Ben,
Sure.
I have a decent amount of stuff. Honestly.
Oh, you got stuff about Thompson?
Yes, I do. So his comment of "that's the first thing I'll train you out of," about her just like being polite and
Sure.
shit. Because she knocks and he's like, "Well, I told you the door was unlocked," and she was like, "I thought it was polite to knock," and he was like,
Stop wasting time.
I'm gonna train you out of that." And I was like, okay. As political as the potions industry seems, wouldn't ass kissing be a good skill to have?
Well, clearly this guy doesn't care too much about that sort of thing.
Does not care.
He's already in. He's got the equivalent of
Yeah.
tenure. He's clearly kind of an antisocial weirdo in the first place. So
Fair. So then I have bro seems a little high strung, but I can already see him and Harry eventually really vibing. He's irritating for sure, but similar to how I would imagine Harry under similar circumstances. This student who is throwing out ideas that have obvious flaws, yeah, I'm going to cut them off instead of letting them continue to waste time. Because if we will recall, Snape has already told us that the only time Rigel interrupts is when someone has obviously incorrect information.
yeah,
Or he gave one other reason. But so that is... I can 100% see Rigel doing the same thing in Thompson's shoes.
he's also an antisocial, efficiency focused weirdo. It's just that in this particular instance, he thinks that this entire interaction with her is a waste of time. So he's older and kind of bitter. He needs to be convinced of her value.
Yes.
Which once he sees what she's doing, he becomes very engaged.
So then we haven't seen a lot of non-ingestible potions in source material or in this. I think that as a concept is super cool. And then I have, battle potions is super cool. And then I have, okay, but why have a guy doing something she's literally not allowed to do be a mentor?
He's the guy who was available.
That's super dumb.
They clearly don't take this program very seriously.
Well, yes. And then we touch more on
I
that
guarantee you there's they draw short straws. They're like, well, I did it last year and this guy is, yes. And so his number came up.
It's just his turn this year and he's got to do it.
Uh-huh.
So then my next note is still before Ben, but this is my last note before Ben is, okay.
Before Ben and after Ben. This whole video is now divided.
So with Lestrange doing Wolfsbane, is he going to completely exhaust himself and just screw it up because he doesn't have Harry's magical core strength?
I didn't even consider that.
I genuinely wanted that to be what happened.
I didn't even consider that.
I genuinely wanted that to be what happened.
I wonder if he has an irregular amount of magic or if it's just a very, very tedious process of doing that job because you can't do much on any given day. You gotta rest up before you can do more.
That I didn't think about until right this moment is that we had that conversation about Harry being like, well, expensive ingredients is important because think about the people who have to buy the potion.
Yeah.
And I'm skipping ahead here, but I think it's super interesting that expensive ingredients became a problem for Lestrange himself. Which I acknowledge that I am absolutely skipping ahead here.
Sure.
But with him picking to brew Wolfsbane, he ran out of money. And I think that I'm totally fine.
It's a good detail.
I'm fine with that being what bit him on his ass instead of the magical core strength. I'm content with that.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I'm pretty much just after that. I'm into because I've especially because I'm now having to edit previous episodes. Fine.
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, ooh boy, maybe I shouldn't read all of my notes in the future. So I'm jumping around. I'm jumping around a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, not too far. Right after we have the magical mop thing, Leo's dueling with with Merrick.
Yes.
And he performs a summoning charm while partially paralyzed. Leo does to pull a knife into Merrick, and that impresses Harry and seems to be just another confusing thing that another confounding thing Leo can do that other people can't. There's been a couple of times when it's been like his magic felt different. His magic seemed restless. I don't know, am I imagining this? Maybe this happens later. I think he's had a comment at this point where I think within what you've read, he says something at some point either in this book or the last book.
I have a note about it that just says, so his magic is like Harry's.
Yeah. So far, that has not been further elaborated upon. I really wonder down the line if Violet has got some kind of plan of like, we're going to finally figure out what's going on with like the. I mean, we've definitely explored some of what's going on with Harry's magic by where we are in book 5 is now started.
Yes.
But there's still some things that remain a bit mysterious.
Okay.
And I can't help but wonder if setting up Leo to have similar attributes is part of where she's going with figuring that stuff out.
Okay.
I guess I should note actually, since the last recording in this one, Violet did a 10th anniversary of the series Q&A.
So crazy.
Where she and a couple other people were on the Discord that this fan base has, and she did. I think it was two separate sessions. She just answered questions from people about the whole process, and a lot of stuff that we talked about in previous videos, and some stuff that I thought myself I felt kind of vindicated on. But there's some other areas that I felt that rendered me very sheepish. And one of them was that she seems to plan things a little bit less than we gave her credit for, especially early on when we were already talking about how little she had stuff planned out.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff where I felt like, ooh, I wonder if she knew where she was going here, like years in advance or not. She didn't give specific examples. It still feels like with character stuff, she probably had a decent idea of what she was doing, but a lot of plot stuff seems to have been I think it's just that she keeps decent track of what she's been doing, so she makes it look like she's been setting stuff up.
Yeah.
But who can say? Who can say except her? And I'm not her. And I didn't participate in that Q&A, so I couldn't ask. I didn't know about it until a couple days after, but there were recordings made.
Okay.
I don't think I would have participated anyway. I don't know how Discord works. I sincerely, I'm not joking around. I don't understand it. No one's explained it to me. People keep asking me, can you make a Discord for the channel? And I'm like, that depends. What's a Discord? Anywho,
So I have a note that just says, interesting seeing actual physical fighting in the wizarding world. We don't see that often.
Yeah.
I also thought that choking as a means of preventing spell casting was
pretty neat.
That was pretty cool.
These guys fighting with wands and then knives in their offhand. It's commented that Leo's magic lashes out at Harry when she tries to heal him. And that was commented in book 2. That happened. And then here it's again commented that Leo says, like, they're like, how did you do that when you were petrified? He's like, my magic, just did what I wanted. And everybody else is like, he's always saying all that stupid crap about his magic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder where that's gonna go. I wonder if Violet even knows, considering what she had to say about how much she plans.
So I just have questions about free dueling, but they're never going to get answered, so we can skip them.
Okay.
And then
we could talk about them if you want to.
Nah. And then I have one I will make is 8th loss this year about Merrick's fight with him, and I was like, as in, there's even more losses in years prior. How dumb/stubborn is this man?
It's just the bit from the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1 where you have to fight Riku over and over again,
yes.
and it keeps score.
Yes.
I will say, whatever questions you have about free dueling that you're wondering about, maybe hold on to those notes for book 4. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have more talks about free dueling later. No, I have too. I'm just saying maybe we'll be talking about this more later in the series.
So I have in all caps, Leo, Harry is a child. Please leave her alone. No kissing. And then I have, okay, glad he shut it down when he remembered she's effing 12. And then I have dueling training. How fancy.
Exactly my point about that is, like, it really just seems like it was just meant to be a cute, joking interaction because she, in her head, knows what wavelength Leo and Harry are on, but didn't really consider how that might read, especially considering the website she's hosted on.
So then we have, I'm back with Thompson now.
Sure. I have just I might even be after Thompson. I have no idea. I just have stuff about it's wholesome that Harry's folks support her pitch for the barrier potion, which I think might be after she initially talks to Thompson about it. So you can read your note.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I don't have anything about that pitch to the parents.
Because she mentions it around the dinner table. I think what she's planning on doing is like, do you mind if because I got the idea from one of the Marauder products, do you mind if I mind if I use that? And it's like, it's valuable to note that scene feeling sweet and wholesome, like it only hits as well as it does because it's earned. We know that like Harry is simultaneously very confident and has like and has confidence issues and doubt issues and and she doubts aspects of herself and especially of her parents, like her family's perception of her. So
Yes.
having them, and James especially, be sincerely interested and supportive is really cathartic whenever we do get to see it.
Yes.
Like, we know that James will be supportive of her even when he doesn't understand her.
Yes.
But they're, they have here they actually have a slightly firmer grasp of what she's up to, and so it feels all the more impactful.
Yes.
That like they later on she does make a point about how they do not have any idea what's going on with the theory behind what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that is kind of upsetting, that I don't feel fulfilled having conversations with them in that way, but it's still valuable that when she's talking about the idea of what the potion's going to do, at least that they're into it and being supportive.
I think that comes up with the dinner with Lestrange.
Can't talk about that in this discussion. Gonna save that for the book 4 conversation.
So I have, just with Thompson, finally an idea he didn't talk her out of.
This is after that scene, because then I'm talking about pitching the project to Thompson and he doesn't get it. No surprise there.
So I was briefly confused by him not understanding what shaped magic was, because we got a whole lesson on what shaped magic was, and I was like, I thought everyone knew what shaped magic was, and eventually we circle back around to him being like, sure, I know what it is, but it's shaped by the spell, and how do you have control over that?
What Harry's proposing doing, she did on accident.
Yes. So I thought it was just interesting. I was confused by him not just being like, yes, I understand what you're talking about. I also thought it was interesting that he's like exasperated when she has a bottle of the modified waitlist drought just like on her. I was like, of course she has it. She's asking you a question about it. She assumed that you would need it. Here it is.
To be fair, she carries it everywhere she goes anyway.
She carries it everywhere.
She carries that kit everywhere she goes, and she's got samples of everything in there.
I thought it was just like, bro, chill.
But you've got it is interesting because we have had a basic explanation. We, as the audience, we perfectly understand the theory behind what Harry is doing at this point.
Right.
Because it was introduced to us in how spell casting, how wild magic and spell casting works. Harry used this technique very innocuously in the previous book for Draco's birthday present in book 2. And she's explained to us what she's going to do with this. So we get it perfectly. So we don't realize that it's unusual, really, until we start having these conversations, and we and Thompson realize that she's hit upon something completely different, which I think is a lot of fun. Lucius Malfoy shows up at Crates looking for a mild magic suppressant.
Hang on, I was trying to find something.
That's just a note of what happened. I have no particular. This is just me. I write down some of the plot points so this video can kind of serve as a recap if people haven't read it in a while.
Yes. What I'll do today. I thought I passed it, but I guess not. I have a note about something with heck, I lost it in my notes now. Okay. A note that says, after the modified waitlist drought conversation, she responds with, "Is your imagination that good?" And I don't remember what that's in response to, but I just have in all caps, "Oh my god."
I think it was specifically, he asked if she was real or not, or something like that. It was like, are you a figment of my imagination or something like that? Because everything that's happening with her is so weird.
Okay. But audible gasp at that. And then I thought it was hilarious that her response to as she's leaving is, "I think he's starting to like me," and I'm just like, Harry, only you would get this. And then we have the interaction with Malfoy and the apothecary is what I have next.
I don't have anything to say about that. Then I was like kind of recapping plot a little bit here.
I was scared that Malfoy was going to drug.
Figure it out.
I was scared Malfoy was going to drug Rigel. And then I thought it was interesting that Malfoy was so afraid of Rigel that he would try to suppress the power.
Okay, gotcha.
How is he even going to dose Rigel? Is he going to try and involve Draco in it? Because that would be royally screwed up. Even worse, if Draco didn't know that he was being used in that way and then found out that his father, whom he trusted, had used him as a pawn against one of his best friends.
But as we are explained, magic suppression potion doesn't really work that way. It's a mild thing.
Yeah, but I was terrified.
Pretty spooked.
Yeah, I was just like, Malfoy's gonna do some dumb shit, and it's gonna have problems.
Hey, listen, remember when I talked about these books being really good suspense books?
Yeah.
And always piling on problems?
Yeah.
Now we have there's a specific line when she's meeting with Malfoy of, like, she noticed she recognized in his eyes the moment that he registered her as a threat or something like that. It's like, well, we now have, whether she's thinking about it consciously or not, there are two people out there who are probably thinking about her on a semi-daily basis and not in a positive way.
No.
In addition to her hiding her gender and all this other crap that she's constantly up to.
So my next one's about gender, just the lad's fine is her response.
Oh, sure.
And why is that such a big deal, Crate? Who cares? She likes the anonymity of being a boy. Leave her alone.
I think that there's taking on another identity is in many ways not helping. In many ways, it's feeding into her worst habits.
Yes. Yes.
The entire Rigel persona is letting her, in some ways, be her worst self. Mm-hmm. She's avoiding dealing with a lot of her personal problems.
Yeah.
So having these characters who have even a vague idea of what she's up to, being Leo and Crate and the other Alley crew don't know. Those are the only characters who have the opportunity to be able to look at Harry and go, what you're doing might not be entirely healthy.
Right.
So, maybe some of those attempts are clumsier than others, but I understand why they're there.
To me, it was more just in terms of, like...
It's not his business.
Yeah, precisely.
No, I agree. It's showing that for as much as this is a professional relationship and they don't really know each other that well, he does care about her.
Yeah.
So,
at least with this small crumb of, like, hey, maybe don't just be fine with people not knowing who the hell you are. maybe
don't just be fine with your identity being this completely morphic hidden thing. Because I think, like, again, you're watching Community now, so I can make all kinds of references I couldn't make before.
Yeah.
But in season 1, there's an episode of that where they're trying to get Abed to hook up with this girl who they think is interested in him.
Yes.
And at the very end, they assume he's going to be upset about everything that's gone on and him behaving differently to fulfill their expectations. And he basically, his line is something to the effect of, like, I've got self-esteem coming out of my butt. When you are confident about who you are, changing for other people isn't really that hard.
Yeah.
And, like, that's interesting, and it's really strong for him in that show. But in terms of the, I'm pretty sure that's the same episode where he has that line. Yeah,
but
because
I remember that one.
because that's the episode where Jeff has the pool plot line.
Yes.
Yeah, Abed's speech is what prompts Jeff to go and play pool in shorts.
And progressively less
than just shorts. Anywho, I think about that as an interesting thing because on one hand, Harry does have a certain amount of confidence in who she is, but in her case, that's not entirely a good thing because a lot of the things that she, like a lot of her like self-identity is kind of very unhealthy.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, sure, it doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I need to get by and accomplish these objectives in my life that are the only thing that matters and nothing else matters. It's like she's not correct about that.
No.
And I mean, hey, listen, we got some books left from her to maybe learn some lessons about that.
Hopefully.
Anywho, no, it's a little moment because Archie's not really going to call her out on that sort of
No.
thing. Leo, and ironically, the minor character, her boss at the potions store, are about the only people who have the perspective to be able to say anything like that. But then anyway, after that, she's training with Remus, doing stuff with him. She reflectively uses the Dispaco shield or whatever, which is now the only person who can connect that to Harry. Because people know that Rigel did that at school. This is the first time Harry has done it as herself.
Yes.
And now Lupin knows about it. This is just me keeping a mental tally of all evidence.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I don't know, I'm engaged with that sort of thing of like, who has information, who can detect, who can figure things out. Lupin's a sharp guy.
Absolutely.
And he seems like he might be, of the adults, the closest to Harry almost.
Yeah.
or at least gets her the most.
Yes, that was my counterpoint I was about to say is I don't know about closest, but understands her the most. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it might be no, it's a little bit later. I'll wait. There's another Lupin. Lupin the Third. There's another Lupin training session later, which I'm not skipping ahead to because I know I have notes about it later.
Okay.
And simultaneously, Harry makes a deal to start doing self-defense training with Leo in exchange for their families having dinner together. No, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
I'm recapping like plot linear progression.
Okay. So I have a couple more notes about the Ramus conversation.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm glad that he's calm during that conversation because every other adult that's seen her do it has been like, bro, that's a dangerous ass shield. Put that away.
Did you put your did you put your name in the goblet of fire? He asked calmly, not so calmly.
And he doesn't blow it.
To be fair, Dumbledore actually, if you recall, when she used it, because no, it was she used it during class once, but also she used it when they found one of the kids petrified, the Hufflepuff, and they noticed, both of them noticed at the last second, like there was a timed explosive.
Yes.
Dumbledore shields them from it, but she also reflexively casts it, and he actually goes, good thinking, Mr. Black, 10 points to Slytherin or something, or 30 points to Slytherin for something like that. So he actually responded to it very positively. Yeah. He literally gave her good school credit for it. So I guess
Snape is the only one that was just like, bro, you can't do that.
Snape doesn't respond to anything correctly.
That's true.
That's kind of his whole life. Snape responding to things incorrectly.
While I did appreciate that Ramus was calm, initially, I understand now, but initially, his response of, did Lily show it to you? Is I was like, yeah, the most responsible wizard in Harry's life is going to show her a super dangerous shield.
We learn why later.
And then there's just kind of a line dropped about, like, Lily apparently has funky magic, and then why hasn't she said anything about it when Rigel has funky magic?
Nobody knows Rigel has funky magic.
Yeah, I guess.
And nobody knows Harry has funky magic either.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is, like, I guess nobody does know that Harry has funky magic. But just, why can't Lily's funky magic tell that Rigel's magic is funky?
Because she's wearing the suppressant.
Oh, yeah. Well, and hers is bound to James's now.
Number one, hold on. Number one, not only is she being bound to James, they basically said that didn't do anything.
Yeah, no. That is not how I interpreted that scene at all. She said hers calmed.
It calmed down a bit. It didn't do enough, is the point.
Well, so she wears the suppressant, because hers is now bound to James's, she was confident enough to take the suppressant off and give it to Rigel temporarily.
To Harry for like an hour. No.
A couple days.
No, what she says is my magic did calm down a little bit after I married James, and I hoped that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're pretty young. Clearly, they had Harry pretty quickly. One can assume that it did not calm down enough, so she wears the suppressant. It's also worth noting that specifically, Harry notes, like when she's caught, because she commented about for one thing, Leo's magic, Harry's magic, and Lily's magic are clearly different, are weird in different ways.
Yes.
Lily's is just extremely powerful and acts too fast and sometimes out of her control. Leo's is a different breed where it seems kind of like it seems like Harry's like a neutral point between whatever's weird about both of their magics, you know?
Yeah.
So in that vein, when
his listens to him,
in that vein, when Harry says that she feels Leo's magic respond in X, Y, or Z way, number one, Lily might not know what to look for because that specific thing might be different. Yeah. Number two, Harry has no aura, and Harry and Lily, how many opportunities would they have had?
Weird enough that your kid doesn't have an aura?
Maybe they don't notice. That is one thing, is it's hard to tell how much of Harry's like specialized capabilities and knowledge that she gathers in these books is like, is she just that nerdy or is she common knowledge? But it's also like she can't currently read auras.
Right.
And it's unclear how, or at least consciously can't. It's unclear how common of a trait that is. The only characters we've really encountered so far are Riddle and Snape. One would assume that probably Dumbledore and like McGonagall can do it too. The twins can kind of read each other's.
Yeah.
So they know a little bit about it, but it doesn't seem like it's the sort of thing that people can do consciously, because otherwise something like Addie responding weird would be common knowledge.
Right.
Anywho.
That is my next note, is Addie.
I had a note about Harry's bookcase Harry's room is a little bit odd. Harry's room is described as plain with a lot of bookcases, which are mostly full of journals. While she does say she has some before she was born, that's a lot of journals to occupy every bookshelf in a room.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they say the main guild publication is a quarterly.
Yep.
And there would have only been around 50 released in her lifetime, and I don't imagine they're that thick.
Yeah.
So the comment of like her room being mostly bookshelves with potions, periodicals, unless she's like has them all like front facing and they're not like, lined up on
like
bookshelves.
A normal person. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know. I understand what she was going for in terms of characterization of like Harry's room is utilitarian and has, but saying like it's mostly potions journals that fill up every wall, especially considering she seems to live in a fairly sizable house and probably has a decent amount of square footage in her room, doesn't quite track. But well.
So I guess to me, I didn't necessarily think it was only those 50 that have been published in her lifetime.
No, I'm not saying there would be more, but she said like I have. She says even if she had like a couple hundred, that's not enough to fill up a ton of bookshelves in a full bedroom on every wall.
And so I also assumed that just like there's National Geographic, there's also
I'm sure she has other potions.
Right, and not just those. And then I don't know what she would consider journals. I don't know if like somehow how historians will have journals or like historical journals will get published. I don't know if a potioneer's journal, like who knows.
It felt like a slightly
slightly
too cartoony almost, I guess. Like I feel like there would I know I could believe their living space is kind of Spartan and focused on that sort of thing. The specific description of
just the journals
it was a little bit much, but whatever.
I definitely just more pictured it as just like books instead of focusing on the journal part, I guess.
Back with Master Thompson. I appreciate Master Thompson's characterization when she walks into his office and he has the report about the weightless potion. It would have been easy for him to go, this doesn't make sense and you're obviously lying, which is honestly probably what Snape's reaction would have been, considering how Snape has behaved in the past. But instead he goes, you've hit on something here, kid, and it might be big. You just need to explain it better.
Yep.
Which is, like, that's the moment when you're like, okay, no, never mind. This guy's fine. This guy's cool.
So my note there starts with glad he's finally less of a twit. But I also have a note just like, once he realizes, hey, she's onto something, he immediately is intense and involved.
Oh yeah, like it really shows that Violet has a good bit of respect for even her bit players. To like, we can really feel this guy as like a real human being when he realizes what's happening and goes, don't tell anybody about this.
Yes.
It's very he's a bit player, but he feels like a person.
Yeah. One thing I want to just also have on record, just jumping back very slightly.
Sure, go ahead.
Leo makes a comment about having magic like hers, and I was just like, what is your perception of her magic? That is the only, I was just like, what do you know?
Who knows?
I also thought it was really interesting that Leo has faith not only in his family to not question him saying, hey, I need you to lie to my friend's parents. Like, that's a big ask.
Sure.
But not only is he like, they're going to say yes, he also apparently has faith in them to not screw it up.
It's true.
Which I also, because not only are you asking them to do it.
To be completely fair, his mom is lying about what he does every day.
True. I guess that's fair. But I just thought that was super interesting.
Sure.
Then I'm back at the Thompson notes. I thought it was really interesting when they do the hair change potion on Archie.
I have stuff about that too.
Yeah, so not like the potion, the concept, cool, whatever. The idea that it renders just the no spells, the spells that are just like, nope, you can't do that.
Deactivate charm spells.
Yes. I couldn't remember like proper wordage.
Neither do I. I don't know.
There's a game called Exploding Kittens, and you literally, there's a card that you can play if you don't like what someone else just did. You can put down a card that just says nope, and you have nullified their actions. That's what I was relating that spell to.
I wrote down like I'm not usually one to get overly wrapped up and focused on like wholesomeness without a clear purpose. But I think since the story is ultimately about some pretty dark and serious themes, it's appropriate to feature when time and circumstance allows to have those types of moments. And seeing Archie and Harry hang out and screw around with a potion is super valuable because these two are supposed to be best friends,
right?
But spend most of the word count of these books on different continents.
Right.
So them grinning mischievously about their nonsense is really valuable.
Yes.
And having Lily go, damn, Harry, this potion could have wide-reaching applications. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yes.
Nope, that's not for this book. Hold on a second.
Okay. I will also say my other like moment of wholesomeness was when she finally gets Addie. She's like changing the ball different temperatures, and Addie's like, "Hey, you might be all right now."
Sure.
I liked that.
I've got that in here too. Yeah.
That was a good scene.
Mm-hmm. Where she kind of figures out what's or at least has a theory about what's going on.
Yeah. My next notes are just about the dinner.
You go ahead and say what else you have to say about the dinner, because I suspect you have some comments about Leo's story and some other stuff.
One of my favorite comments, other than just the fact that story is true, is crazy.
Yeah.
But at one point, they say something about you used to keep the like passwords to the flu in the sock drawer, and they're like, well, the sock drawer was warded too, and she's like, well, not as well as the flu. And I just thought that was hilarious.
Leo has a whole anecdote about how he met Harry unknowingly several years prior.
Yes.
She was like 8 or so I guess it would have been like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And
some time ago, yeah.
And he didn't make the connection until after he'd known Harry more personally for a while.
Right.
It's a fun story for there's a bunch of different stuff going on in that scene, and partially just because it's getting late. We probably shouldn't stop. We probably need to pick up our pace a little bit in the discussion anyway. But I like that I mentioned previously that there would be a moment where we would find out that Harry has been walking into Tate's shop and displaying knowledge of potions for quite some time.
Yeah.
So especially on reread at the beginning of book 2, when she's trying to find a job and she asks Tate if she can provide a recommendation, and she says, "I promise I'm really good." It was like a moment. I commented in the previous discussion, like, he knows.
Yeah.
her again, a moment of like, she's a fun character because in some moments she's very confident in herself, but she's not confident in others' perception of her, and other stuff.
She knows she can do some real cool stuff, but she does not have any faith in anyone else having faith in her.
Yeah. After that, Harry ultimately gives Kylam the time of day on the werewolf notes, specifically because she felt guilt over denying him info when Hurst was the one Hurst Sr. was the one who directed her.
Yep.
It's a pretty good reason for her to go and engage with the guy.
Yep.
But anyway, also,
the book that Archie gives her seems useful and interesting is my last note.
I think you mean the book from Leo.
Oh, maybe. Okay. I just have book.
My last note is sweet of Leo to give her a book that solves all her problems.
Yes.
the Dark Disguise book.
Yes.
It doesn't have a title. She starts referring to it in prose as the Dark Disguise book.
Okay.
Because it's dark magic and it's about disguises. Chapter 5. Author's note at the beginning of Chapter 5 addresses the handling of Leo and the idea of, quote, straddling two canons, because she's kind of adapting this character from Alana, who is in a situation where I think that character is also very flirty with Alana. Okay. I say I think. I don't want to talk too much about that character. Now, from what I understand about his canon, he's not really. There's a lot of differences between him and how Leo is functioning. But I don't want to talk too much about another character to suggest how Leo may or may not behave. So, but anyway, the point is that she's like. She notes in that author's note that Alana the Lioness is set in a kind of medieval married at 15 world.
Yeah.
So she was like, yeah, okay, I do need. Yeah, you're probably right. The attitude, I'm translating a little bit too directly from that style when things are a little bit different over here. But just goes to show people out there in the audience how important editing is, how important it is to finish an entire book and then do editing and talk to other people about it. Obviously, in this, I'm not saying like Violet should have done that instead. I'm just saying for aspiring writers out there, editing is very, very important. Pound out that rough first draft. Yeah. Get through it edit it a couple more times, show it to some people. Because there's going to be stuff that you aren't even thinking about that's going to hit other people weird. Yep. Anyway, Harry is sparring physically with Leo now. She notes that she can feel her body changing under the polyjuice. This tracks with accounts that she's read of people dying people using polyjuice to look healthy, that they can still feel their body withering underneath. I think that's a really neat really neat thing. Harry learns potions she's been brewing are definitely for Draco, the suppressant potions. When one of them needs ingredient substitutes, she's able to deduce
so that
it.
It's not the
it's ginseng or acai again. Yeah, that ginseng shortage, acai, whatever he's allergic to. Yeah,
I think ginseng
was the substitute.
Yeah,
whatever. Snape publishes his paper. If stop me at any point, I'm just trying to move this a little quickly.
So I have a note just in between that says Harry's the bigger person towards Lestrange. Cool with the extra credit for Tate too about that exchange where they have where he can't afford. All
where they have the interaction in his store.
And then Thompson says something about you can have this copy with the footnote in it because I know all aspiring potion masters collect them. Thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the footnote.
Yeah, it's no. In Snape's paper, Snape's paper is nice and all. Only one dose of potion for all 3 nights. But how exactly did he calculate that 60% pain for reduced 60% figure for reduced transformation pain? I was just thinking about that number's got to be made up. How did he calculate it? And it reduces pain in the transformation process by 60%. How did they measure that?
Who knows?
What testimony do they get for that?
I mean,
yeah,
maybe,
and Harry.
So from a research perspective, I guess you could be like, okay, have your regular transformation and rate it on 1 to 10, and then do it with this and rate it on 1 to 10. It would be tedious as hell.
I can't imagine trying to give that interview after coming out of being a werewolf, and Snape walks up to you and like, so how much did that hurt the previous night when you transformed?
Right. Yeah.
Do you even remember? But yeah. And also the footnote. Harry is finally published, even if it's under an alias. So a proud moment for her. Book 4 stuff, skipping, I like the bit when, Remus is she's shooting skeet basically with magic, and she shoots a bunch of blasts in a row, and he says that's cheating. She goes, if it was an enemy, they'd be down. How's it cheating if I win? He's like, what are they teaching you in America?
Oh, okay.
And,
I don't know. Maybe I just don't have anything about that exchange.
No. This is the scene where they do a little bit of training, and then it leads into him revealing that he's going to be teaching at Hogwarts this year.
Okay.
It's good writing for Lupin, where he tells us we're going to be taking the teaching job, and in the scene he's teaching.
Yes.
He demonstrates a point to Harry when she's like, I'm going to shoot a spell 3 times, and because she keeps missing, right? She's like, she shoots the spell 3 times because she's not compensating to hit Skeet, and he's like, oh, so you're 33% success rate, great job. What if he's teaching her practical lessons.
Yes.
He's doing it very effectively and very quickly. So we get further insight into his and Harry's relationship. It's just it's fun to get to see him in an environment where he's teaching. We get a better sense of his and Harry's relationship, which again feels very like he really understands her and they get along very well.
Mm-hmm. On the topic of him teaching, though, they talk about while he's like a werewolf, they're gonna have to have sweat perfumes, which I think is just absolutely disgusting. That's the whole conversation.
Oh yeah. Those little kids are turning into sociopaths when Harry and Archie start talking about like, oh, I'll pretend that I don't want to be around my uncle because I don't want to get special treatment and whatever, and Dad will comfort me. I'll agree with him, and it's like and like I'm gonna have to not be around him for a little while. It's like these kids are they're getting really messed up by this whole thing.
They're being incredibly manipulative.
Yeah.
My next note is about the potions event.
Hold on one second. Let me find that then. I've got a couple of other notes, but they're not anything important.
Okay.
One thing. They go to Hogsmeade to pick out birthday presents.
Yes.
Archie jokes about giving handkerchiefs to crying women. Harry questions why he's never given her one, and Archie says it's because she never cries. This is just very funny to me. I'm sure it's funny to you as well.
Yes.
But as me, who's read all the books, it's very funny.
Oh.
Anyway, I just had a boy in all caps. But anywho, don't read that. That's for later. Harry goes into her mind to deal with her, to make a fake aura projection, right? So that she can, so that if there's someone who can sense aura, Harry and Rigel are distinct entities.
Yes.
She understands that her projections being pre-concealed is unusual. She's read at this point that, she basically is reverse engineering how to project one, right? Because the book describes how to conceal one first.
So I have that after the potions thing.
I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure I have notes on that whole sequence. But go ahead and talk. Whatever.
So I do have. I think maybe it's not actually the potions thing. I just have a note that says Lestrange doesn't have anyone coming because they come in and ask who needs tickets and how many do you need, and he says no. So it's not actually the potions thing.
Yeah, no.
So my note.
No. This is definitely before the showing because she's fixing her aura before she goes there. Yeah.
So my note is literally just Lestrange doesn't have anyone coming. That's kind of sad, honestly. Too bad he's a prick.
Yeah. Too bad. It's not too bad. That's pretty sad. But I sure don't care.
Yeah.
With sunglasses.
I also just have a comment that says, I wonder what weird magic stuff will happen to Harry on her birthday because we've talked about it too much for it to be nothing. And oh boy. I also have something about the gifts now because I thought I thought I was behind. I thought the firebolt thing that Sirius is getting Archie the firebolt. I was like, perfect, because then
That's a little.
Harry,
I think that's a little. Oh no, he asked for it. Yeah,
Yes.
he asked for it first.
he asked for it because I was like, great, now Harry can still have it. Harry Rigel can still have it because
Harry winds
up
up getting it anyway because James gets it for her as well.
Before I knew that, I was like, that makes sense because now Harry can still get it from Sirius to take to Hogwarts to play Quidditch.
Yes.
I was like, perfect that Archie's getting it.
Indeed. Yes. Yes.
I like the little teasing between them about Leo and Hermione. Like, oh, do you have a crush? Oh, do you have a crush? And now I am at the space room manifestations.
Yeah.
I think it totally tracks. Just interesting to get the explanation.
Because it was basically explained that everything, like, normally it's out in the open and one has to construct a barrier. So she understands at this point intellectually or practically whatever that it is unusual for her projections to be pre-concealed, and it is the reason that she currently projects no aura. And I just wrote, I wonder if Harry could be an unhealthily guarded person.
Yeah, I wonder.
After that, I got nothing else until the actual presentation, which I think was shortly after that.
I think so, because my next one is, Thompson, the complete and utter control that Harry has over her emotions is, to say the least, eerie.
Yeah, because there's a bit when she's really, really nervous, and he tries to get her to calm down, and then she does manage to calm down in like a second, and he was like, that was, okay,
abrupt.
all right, yeah, interesting. It's, again, rich characterization on that guy for as much of a bit role as it is, that he's like, once we see that he is taking the whole thing seriously, he is pretty invested in her and what's going on. Not in an unprofessional way, but he is concerned about her and involved, and like, your presentation's going to go good, stop freaking out.
Yep.
I wrote, redeems himself further by calming her down before the presentation and even pitching a name for the potion. But I think that's afterwards. But yeah, I have internal monologue from Snape.
Same.
We see that he is actually sincerely hyped for Harry to embarrass herself on stage. Like, what?
His rivals.
What
offspring.
A true deep asshole.
So, true deep asshole, sure. But my biggest note here is that he considers James his rival.
Sure.
Which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because as a grown man, he's worried about some cop. Snape, you are world famous.
Yeah.
You are published. You are accomplished. And you're still worried about James Potter.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit about James Potter?
Well, he does
You're
because
of
Lily. Yeah.
Right. And I get that. But it's just like, if you are, in terms of considering this man your rival,
I think
you're
that,
winning.
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing, right? Is that Snape's a deeply unhappy person.
Yeah.
And for all we can say about James, at this point, he's living a fairly happy life. He has a wife that he loves. He has a daughter who, even if he doesn't get along with perfectly, he loves and who loves him back.
Yeah.
He has a good number of friends, a successful business, and he's outside of the Marauders prank line or whatever, he's had a very successful career in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And like, Snape, Snape's a genius and he's published, but he's also completely miserable and has no real friends.
I really feel like how much of that is by choice, though.
Oh, it is by choice, but that's because he's full of self-loathing himself, because he ruined the greatest friendship that he ever had by accidentally calling her the N-word. That's what happened. He accidentally, I shouldn't even say accidentally, he used her racial slur and scared away the woman that he loved or was at minimum best friends with, even if they hadn't gotten, they could have still been friends. Yeah. I know that he was in love with her. I'm just saying, even in a hypothetical scenario where they didn't wind up together, because I don't think that would have happened anyway. Like, there's no reason they couldn't have at least been friends, and everything couldn't have been worked out as adults. But I think, in canon, original canon, and in this, a huge part of his anger and bitterness comes from that he ruined all of that for himself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everything that happened was not James Potter's fault. It was his fault.
Right.
That's the whole character. But it makes sense that he hates Harriet at that level because he hated Harry in original canon.
Yeah.
And in this reason, honestly, he has more reason to hate Harry, because at least in the other canon, like, he at least had some knowledge of the fact that Harry's life had probably been miserable,
right,
and that his parents were both dead. In this one, he's like, frickin' Harriet Potter, charmed life and son and child of James Potter and Lily Potter,
right.
And looks a decent amount like James too. While we're at it, it makes sense that he would be, because really nothing about his relationship with Harry Potter has been changed from original canon at that level. So it makes sense that he's but it's fun to get inside of his head, which we really didn't do in the original books, and see that no, it's just a deep spite for a 12, almost 13-year-old who's like it's just like what, it's just so pathetic.
Yeah.
But anywho, then Harry, if she has a very successful demonstration of how her cool potion works, we're not going to recap it because you should have read the damn book.
Yep.
She asks Kylam out to dinner, specifically because she thinks that he will be more capable of having a valuable and interesting conversation about potions. Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. I understand that.
Yeah.
I feel that. Instead of going home and having people who, are supportive and love her, but don't really understand her accomplishments.
Right.
It's not healthy necessarily, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand that. It's the sort of thing, it's the sort of thought that comes into your head unbidden. There's a line, she thinks, what did abstract expected platitudes amount to? She shook her head. She was really being too hard on her parents again. They gave her everything she needed to facilitate her goals. They showed up to support her when given the chance. It was unfair to ask for more, despite the tiny part of her that craved a real connection to her parents, achievements they could share rather than ones that went over their heads or that they could never know about.
Yeah.
And again, while it's understandable that she can't tell them about the whole Rigel situation, this is another point in favor of the entire Rigel identity is unhealthy.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, it's really interesting because that's something that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I felt that sort of thing before with friends, peers, family, etc. I think everybody kind of feels that way sometimes when they've got, this is what I'm good at and what I'm interested in. The people around you who love you and care about you, are supportive, but you're like, but you don't get it. You don't really get it.
You don't understand why this is important.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's this isn't really a new feeling for Harriet, but getting to stop and focus on this. And it's a good reason, and it's a good way of getting her to actually sit down and have that conversation with Kylam.
So this whole interaction with Lestrange, I go back and forth on how I feel about it.
Yeah.
My first one is, honestly, screw yourself, Lestrange. Go choke on your acidic personality. And then I'm like, oh no, I chuckled at his, like, she goes, I lie a lot, you should get used to it. And then he's like, we're not friends.
Yeah.
And I chuckled. And then I go back to Jesus. I was just starting to come around. And then you call Ramus a fag. Like, buddy, you got to stop shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, you remember what he said about, like in his literal first scene in the last book at the ball when he approached Rigel.
It's something about the
Sirius. He got up in his face and was like, what he said about Sirius was he said he can go F his werewolf whore or something like that as well. He said it was bad. It was awful. Yeah. I think that might have been the first F-bomb dropped in the entire series too, and it was really gross. So. It was really awful. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was easily the worst thing anyone had said about anybody in the series by a wide margin, which I'm sure was deliberate because it was I've talked about before in the last book in particular how I like that this entire series kind of operates on like there's no kid gloves. This series is usually focused on kids, but there are adults out there who are not playing by kid rules, and Harry gets ganked into adult world very often with stumbling upon a gang war and almost getting killed, with getting grabbed and taken to the Chamber of Secrets, and there's no rules. And this guy Kylam, who's like, I don't know, like it seems like 17, 18 or thereabouts, like who's a teenager and a prick, walks up to a 12-year-old and says that really heinous stuff. That to a 12, especially to a 12-year-old, that it's like I really like the part of Violet's style is that there's not like this is a Tarantino world where everybody swears constantly and that's just how it works, and like this is the tone, this is like this is the flatline level of it. It's like no, everything is existing on kind of a normal, casual, everyday wavelength, and sometimes assholes or danger just suddenly jut into your life, and,
Yeah.
and it makes it much more intense and memorable. And you really feel the intent. For example, the intensity of the finale of book 2 would not have been nearly as high
Yeah.
if there had been a smattering of action scenes throughout the rest of the book. You know?
Right.
When you only have the gang fight at the beginning of that book, and
Yeah.
like Harry gets caught in an explosion at one point at one of the crime scenes. Like that's really those are really the only action beats before the ending.
Yeah.
I guess other than technically they play Quidditch, but I don't count that.
No.
But you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm on to I got really not much to say about Kylam right now. I'm gonna hold my tongue about him for a while longer.
Okay.
This should not stun you. You haven't seen the last of him. But magical core expanding scene. Birthday happens. Harry's magical core expands overnight.
Is that the next chapter?
No, that's I think this is the last chapter.
Oh, okay.
I think this is the last chapter of the book we're in right now.
Okay.
Did you have something else you needed to talk about first?
No.
I'm
I don't really have notes about that. I think I
Okay.
just didn't know what else to say.
Sure. I mean, it just
was
happens.
But it was just like so, just like unexpected, I guess, and seemed so intense. It was just like there's information here, but I don't really have anything to say about
Yeah,
it.
it's getting us through what's going on. It's it's the next step in what's happening in the story and what's happening to Harry, and we got to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
And we explain it with a little bit of Lily backstory and
Yeah.
some prior events. What did you think of the thing about changing her daughter's eye color?
Man, I don't know. I
know if I was
a lot of
if I was in Lily's position, that would have freaked me the hell out.
absolutely 100% for sure. But it's also just like one.
I mean that's the sort of thing like that would mess me up for life. I think
Yeah.
I would feel guilty about that until the day I died.
She does.
Yeah, I mean obviously that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
it's a really strong choice.
And I
Writing wise, I mean.
don't know how much power it takes to change the color of someone's eyes.
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess a lot. I'm gonna guess quite a bit.
I'm gonna guess quite a bit, but also
Especially because she tried to undo it. She said.
but to do it without harming,
Yes.
to do it in a way that wasn't detrimental.
It did what she wanted.
Yeah, is just crazy.
But yeah, it also explained like this series in particular focusing on how quote how bright her eyes are has happened a couple of times. So it's even more than just she has Lily's green eyes. She has unnaturally green eyes, literally.
Yeah.
They're radioactive.
Yeah.
But and that then I feel becomes even another sign of like how deeply Harry's burying her identity, because even when she's herself right now, where she has the green eyes, they're fake green eyes, right?
Because of the potion, yeah.
Even in the blended modified polyjuice potion where she's playing herself, it is we now have because we haven't seen what Harry looks like without the blended polyjuice potion
Yeah.
since the beginning of book 2, right?
Yeah.
She's been taking it continuously. So Harry realistically and Archie don't know what they actually look like
Yeah.
right now. So now we as the audience and Harry have a visual signpost reminder of that even when she's playing herself, it's not her. She's in disguise.
Yeah.
She's doing this thing to herself to change herself completely. It's mentioned that Lily has a habit of using her magic almost constantly to exhaust it and keep it under
Yeah.
control. Earlier in this book, because I'm sure that Violet knew where she was going with this, because it was just a couple chapters ago. There's a mention of Harry observing that Lily uses magic even for mundane tasks like in a kitchen or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like she used to think her mom was lazy, but now she thinks, she grew up with Muggles. Maybe she just appreciates it
Yeah.
more. And it's like, no, that's actually that's a coping mechanism to make
Yep.
sure she doesn't blow things up, which is pretty neat.
This is where I have my note about once her magic was bound to James. Sounds like serious witchcraft, and I don't know that I would want someone messing with my magic like
I
that.
think that is I think we are meant to read that as a minor marriage like thing that happens. I don't know. I don't know how you read that. I read that as a relatively casual and unimportant binding that happens when two people get married in this world if they have magic. I literally read that as just like a casual side effect of like two people who are in love and spend a lot of time together, more so than like a really complicated ritual where
Yeah.
they're like permanently bound.
So I didn't think of it as a complicated ritual either. I kind of looked at it as probably just like an exchanging of rings. Of you put the rings on and now your magic is bound, and I just don't like it. But to be fair, I have had numerous. And
Okay,
especially-
Britta. Sorry.
Especially with my ex, though, I had several much too long conversations about I don't want your last name.
Uh-huh.
And if we're taking last names, we're hyphenating because mine is mine, and my mom kept the same last name after she divorced my dad because she wanted to have the same one as me. So damn it, I'm not changing mine, and you're not going to take mine from me either. So why the hell would I let someone change my magic, this integral part of me?
Lily seemed pretty keen on it, to be fair.
Right.
She had a good reason.
But that's definitely like a motivated choice, which I would maybe understand, like, if you... I might change magic if yours was gonna make mine stronger.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll change magic.
Oh, I see how it is. Okay.
Right. But as
I see how it is.
As far as just like, if there's nothing really special about mine other than it's mine, why are you fucking with it?
Okay, sure.
We're not doing it.
But yeah. That whole sequence I think is kind of interesting. We get a lot about Lily there. And now Harry. Now I remember I've talked before. Violet revels in giving her characters problems. Now Harry has a big new problem, which is she was already a freak of nature. Now she is so uncontrollably a freak of nature that she can't do magic anymore without blowing things up. She cannot adjust to the increased quantity of magic that her body is generating. Yeah. So Leo helps her out, introduces her to a guy who can craft a suppressant similar to the one that Lily uses. She gets a ring made out of green dragon or jade, or it was like she didn't actually do jade. It was like a dragon scale or something, right?
Real
to match
similar
with
to the basilisk one.
I think it's a Welsh. I think it's a Welsh greenback. They mentioned.
I think you're right.
So it kind of matches colorfully with the basilisk one. This is more a note for myself, but we introduce here a magic measuring device that will come up a couple more times, and the scaling is not detailed later on, so I just kind of wrote it down for myself. Introduced here is a device which one can channel magic into continuously, which can be used to measure the capacity of one's magical reserves. Right. This can also be done by reading somebody's aura. But Harry's is blocked up, so the guy can't do that. So he has to use this device instead. It's noted that if the meter reads red, you have near squib levels of magic, very minor. Yellow-green is about average. Light blue is, quote, solid mage level registry. And anything above indigo is lord level, quotation marks, which Harry clears indigo and moves into deep purple. Yeah. So... only Leo and the guy who run that shop know that. Yeah. I think I've mentioned to you previously, throughout much of my life, when I would take standardized tests and people would tell me, oh, you did great. My parents would be like, you did awesome. You were in the 90 whatever, the 95th percentile or whatever of people. I was like, I don't know what that means. Yeah. I don't understand that. I don't track. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I didn't either.
I think that Harry does not understand what just showed up on that meter, and I think that other guy's probably unimportant, but he does know about it now. I think Leo definitely knows what it means and has tucked that knowledge away for a later day. Yep. But anywho, that's how it ends. Is with her commissioning the ring, and next time around we are off. We are going back to Hogwarts. Aiden, do you have any closing thoughts for this discussion before we wrap up here? We managed to do this almost 30 minutes shorter than our usual recording. Over 30 minutes, I should say, shorter than our usual length on these. Yeah, we're only at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Could you believe?
We blasted through that last part.
Yeah.
Any notes? Anything I want to say? I'm happy to be able to read again.
Yeah, happy to be able to move forward. Sorry, we've been jammed up for a bit. I've been in and out of town so much the last couple of weeks. This just wasn't going to happen.
I had my own things going on because I also went out of town and screwed up the dates that I was actually going out of town.
I've already read forward a little bit in the next couple of chapters just because I don't have to wait. I get to cheat. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're going to get your. I mean, you were complaining about not getting Draco and Pansy, but listen. Summertime is for Leo and Archie and the rest of the family. And
just want all of them all of the time. Why can't I have it all?
I mean, because you can't, because of the ruse.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Just forget about it. Give up on it.
It's fine. Listen, Harry is so good. I think
she could figure it out.
Yeah, it'd be fine. It'd be fine.
What are you picturing here?
I'm not.
No, Sheldon, you're not wasting your time figuring it out. Harry and Archie will figure it out.
Baselessly arguing with you here.
She'll just pretend to be Rigel. No, she'll go as Rigel and be like, "Hey, you should go hang out with Harry for no reason, and meet the people, and then meet people that she hangs out with in Diagon Alley, in the seedy part of town. And Draco and Pansy will just go for no reason and hang out with Harry, and nobody will notice anything suspicious.
No,
it'll go swimmingly.
Yep.
Anywho, I believe that's it. That was chapters 1 through 5, I believe.
Yes.
And next time around, if you want to know what to read to be ready for our next discussion, we're going to be covering chapters 6 through 11. We're dividing up Ambiguous Artifice into 3 episodes. Next time around is chapters 6 through 11. Okay. The final video will be chapters 12 through 16.
Okay.
And then Futile Facade is going to be 4 videos because, boy, that book's long.
Great.
There's a lot going on.
Perfect.
See you guys next time. I don't know how fast I'm releasing these because I still haven't even released even a damn one of them.
Yeah.
But who knows? You know what? The length of these things go, you'll probably have time to read the whole damn book before we actually release the next one. Oh, well, maybe, you know what? Listen, maybe I get enough of them done before I release the first one that I can release them at a decent clip. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See you next time, folks.